Imagine a moonlit night where the air is filled with a melody that could melt your heart. Meet Shaoying, the reigning queen of the stage. She's got the looks, the talent, and the entire city at her feet. But behind that dazzling smile, is she truly happy? The crowd goes absolutely feral for our leading lady. Every man in the room wants a piece of her spotlight. But as soon as the final note fades, the mask starts to slip. Backstage, she's just a girl working herself to the bone. Her boss is over the moon with the profits she's pulling in. He calls her their leading light, the star she was born to be. But our girl remains as humble as a little nugget. He remembers her as a scrawny 14-year-old. Now she's become an elegant swan that makes him emotional. She doesn't want a vacation, she just wants to keep singing. But even the brightest stars need to dim their lights sometimes. She's got a heart of gold, planning to visit kids at her reformatory on her day off. Time to head out and face the real world. The other girls at the club pretend to be her besties, but their words are dripping with icy jealousy. Big celebrity sounds more like a slap in the face coming from them. Shaoying just brushes it off with a graceful smile. Finally, she's alone in her dressing room. She slumps down, the weight of the world on her shoulders. The glamour is just a facade for the camera. In the mirror, she sees a girl who is drowning in loneliness. Fake friends and empty praise are all she has. It's a cold, lonely life at the top of the mountain. When she steps off that stage, she feels completely invisible. My heart is literally breaking for our poor heroine. Meanwhile, across town, meet our other lead, Yanchu. She's buried in her medical books while the house is a chaotic mess. Her mother is a total buzzkill, yelling at her to do chores instead of studying. Freedom, she cries, finally escaping that prison. She's wandering the streets looking for a quiet place to read. But it's freezing and everything is closed. Suddenly, a scream pierces the night. A thief just snatched a lady's bag and left her on the ground. Not on Yanchu's watch. Our girl is off like a savage rocket. Catching this trash is light work for her. Bag secured and the thief is left in the dust. But wait, who does this expensive purse belong to? It's Shaoying, looking totally shaken and vulnerable. Yanchu returns the bag, her own heart doing backflips. Such warm hands, Shaoying thinks, feeling a spark. She's absolutely mesmerized by this brave stranger. She can't take her eyes off our little hero. Call me Shaoying, she whispers, her icy walls melting. She even wraps her own expensive scarf around Yanchu's neck. It's a total ba-dump moment that's giving me all the feels. Yanchu is left standing there in a total daze. Back home, her brother is being a total pest as usual. But Yanchu's mind is miles away, thinking of that beautiful singer. She realizes she needs to start paying attention to the entertainment news. The next day, fate decides to play matchmaker again. Someone is in a massive hurry on the street. Is it the thief? No, it's just destiny calling. That face, those eyes, she'd know them anywhere. Shaoying is back and she's looking for her hero. She returns a book Yanchu dropped with a playful laugh. But the wind is picking up and it's biting cold. Our girl is shivering like a leaf. Shaoying to the rescue. She wraps the scarf around Yanchu again, pulling her close. The tension is absolutely electric right now. It's warm, Shaoying smiles, her eyes full of warmth. Yanchu doesn't want this moment to end. She grabs Shaoying's hand, talk about a bold move. Can I get your name? She asks breathlessly. Weng Shaoying, remember that name because everything is about to change. This chilly night is the start of an entangled destiny. Yanchu sneaks back into her house like a silent ninja. She's trying not to wake anyone up, but a heavy cough echoes through the dark hallway. Someone is waiting in the shadows and they aren't happy. It's her mysterious boss and he sounds deathly ill. He's asking what's going on outside. Yanchu clenches her book, the weight of her secret life pressing down. Yanchu, are you there? Yes, I am, she whispers. The wind howls outside as the real drama begins. The peaceful days of tea and conversation feel like a distant memory. Because back in the present, the heavy sound of coughing fills the room as our girl, Chu, watches her father's health decline. She's heartbroken to see he hasn't even touched his soup. When she tries to push him to eat, he snaps, violently shoving the bowl away until it shatters across the floor. The mess is a perfect reflection of the tension in the room. He warns her not to touch the shards, insisting the servants handle it while he treats her like a fragile porcelain doll. Chu tries to tell him she's perfectly fine and he needs to relax. But she's fed up with being babied and demands to know why he's being so difficult. Her father can only offer a weary, knowing look. Our girl doesn't hold back, savagely reminding him that he's old and won't get better if he keeps skipping his medicine. He sighs, claiming he knows his own body and is tired of the useless struggle. But his real fear isn't death. It's leaving her to manage the family business Bi Xing Tang all on her own. Chu's temper flares at the mention of the business. She's trapped in a legacy she never asked for and just wants someone else to take the reins. Her dream is simple. She just wants a normal, peaceful life far away from all this chaos. Her father drops a truth bomb, telling her that in their world, peace is a fairy tale that doesn't exist. He's only holding on because of her. Overwhelmed by the weight of it all, she throws a dramatic tantrum on the bed. If he leaves, she'll be truly alone, and she doesn't see the point in continuing if it's just for a business. Her father takes her hand, his voice softening with a final piece of advice. He tells her she must be strong because one day she'll find someone she actually wants to protect. Trying to shake off the heavy mood, she insists he still needs that medicine. She heads out to find someone to clean up the broken bowls, but on her way, a newspaper catches her eye. She spots a familiar face in the headlines. It's the glamorous singer Weng Shaoying. Even through the grainy print, the woman's aura is undeniable. Xiao Chu's mood flips instantly, and she decides to take the paper for the cartoons, leaving her dad wondering if the business is doomed in her hands. By Sunday, our girl is in a total panic because she has a major appointment to keep. Of course, the universe is a hater, and the car is broken, leaving her with no choice but to sprint. She checks her watch, realizing the show starts at 7 and she's running out of time. She's desperate to see the singer again, even carrying the woman's freshly ironed scarf in her bag. She finally makes it to the venue, but it's absolutely packed with people. The crowd is chaotic, and she struggles to push through the sea of fans. Amidst the rush, she stops when she sees a mother and child begging on the street. She's in a hurry, but she can't just walk away. When the hungry child accidentally grabs her coat and dirties it, the mother is terrified. But our girl is a total sweetheart and tells them not to worry. She decides to put her plans on hold to order 2 hot bowls of noodle soup for them. As she waits, she checks her watch again, realizing she's definitely going to miss the performance. She lets out a dejected sigh, knowing her chance to see Shaoying is slipping away. The food arrives steaming and delicious. The mother is moved to tears by her kindness. Xiao Chu watches them eat, her father's words about the lack of a peaceful life echoing in her mind. Meanwhile, backstage at the theater, the vibe is way more savage. The manager is complaining about rising rents and the fact that the owner of Bi Xing Tang is on his deathbed. He scoffs that the business is no longer a threat now that a little girl is running the show. Shaoying listens silently as she prepares for her next move. They gossip about how the great Bi Xing Tang has fallen, thinking Xiao Chu is just some weak replacement. By the time Xiao Chu finally arrives at the theater, the performance is already over. The staff tells her the star is done for the night. She's crushed, clutching the bag with the scarf and wondering if she should just leave it with a waiter. But she can't bring herself to do it. She wants to hand it over personally. Ignoring the off-limits signs, she sneaks into the quiet backstage area. She finds the dressing room and spots her idol through the doorway. She expects to see a confident diva, but instead she finds Shaoying alone and trembling. Our girl watches in shock as the glamorous singer breaks down in tears, realizing that even the most beautiful stars have lives that are anything but peaceful. The city bustle never stops, but for our poor heroine in another life, the world was a cold, unforgiving place. She was just a starving child holding out a cracked bowl for a single scrap of mercy. But instead of coins, she's met with insults and rocks from people who think she's nothing but a stinky beggar. She can only huddle on the cold pavement, feeling the sting of the world's cruelty. Just her luck to be reborn into a tragedy where even breathing feels like a crime. She drags her exhausted body through the streets, tears mixing with the rain as she tries to outrun her hunger. Eventually, she finds a moment of peace, hoping the shadows will finally hide her from the world's hate. She keeps moving, her feet heavy and her heart even heavier. But then a voice cuts through the darkness, asking if she wants some water. It's a man with a gentle face, someone who actually looks at her like she's a human being. He hands her a bowl of water, and for the first time, the cold doesn't feel so biting. Our girl drinks it down like it's the elixir of life, finally feeling a spark of warmth. She starts to walk away, but she doesn't realize she's being watched. A little girl with a big bow in her hair is tugging on her father's sleeve, her heart breaking for the stranger. As our girl finishes the last drop, she has no idea her fate is about to change. The little girl looks up at her dad with the purest eyes you've ever seen. She begs him to share their food, unable to let another child go hungry. The father smiles, and instead of just one bun, he decides to buy out the whole stand. Suddenly, a mountain of steaming hot buns and fresh milk is placed in front of our poor heroine. She can't believe her eyes, her hands trembling as she reaches for the first real meal she's seen in days. The two girls lock eyes, a silent bond forming between the privileged and the forgotten. The little girl pulls our heroine into a tight hug, proving that kindness still exists in this chaotic world. As the family walks away, our girl waves goodbye, her heart finally full. The man looks back one last time, wishing her a life of happiness. He leaves behind more than just food, he leaves her with a reason to keep going. Sitting alone under the setting sun, our heroine weeps into her buns, overwhelmed by a stranger's grace. The next day, the sun shines a little brighter. Someone approaches her with even more good news. It turns out that kind man didn't just buy her dinner, he paid for a whole year's worth of food. Our girl eats with a smile, finally knowing what it feels like to be cared for. Fast forward to the present, and our girl Shaoying is lost in the memory of that man's face. She never got the chance to pay him back for the kindness that saved her life. She sits in her dressing room, the past weighing heavy on her soul. But then she notices something left behind on her chair. It's a neatly folded scarf with a small, mysterious note. The handwriting is elegant, thanking her and mentioning that the scarf has been washed. Shaoying picks it up, her mind racing as she recognizes the fabric. She clutches it to her chest, the scent bringing back a flood of emotions. It was her, the same girl from all those years ago. Shaoying remembers the picnics and the laughter they once shared in a dreamier time. She takes a deep breath, and the sweet smell of soap on the scarf tells her everything she needs to know. Standing before her mirror, she realizes that the threads of fate are pulling them back together. She dresses with purpose, ready to step back onto the stage of her life. She looks at the note one more time, a small smile playing on her lips. I have already washed your scarf, it reads, a simple gesture that means the world. She traces the letters, feeling the warmth of a connection she thought was lost. With a determined look, she sets the scarf down and prepares to face the crowd. Outside, the fans are already screaming her name, desperate for a glimpse of the legendary Shaoying. She steps out under the bright lights of the Song of Fairyland, the star of the show. But even with all the fame, she feels a strange emptiness in her heart. She can't help but miss the one person who truly saw her for who she was. Suddenly, someone approaches her through the crowd. Shaoying stops in her tracks, her breath hitching in her throat. It's Yanchu, looking as cool and effortless as ever. She gives a casual wave, a smirk dancing on her face. Yanchu reaches into her coat, searching for something special. She asks Shaoying what she's doing standing out in the freezing cold. Yanchu's eyes are soft, showing a side of her she rarely reveals to anyone else. She keeps fumbling in her pockets, acting like a total dork despite her handsome looks. Finally, she pulls out a warm soybean drink, hoping it'll help thaw our girl out. She hands it over with a grin, and honestly, the chemistry is absolutely savage. Shaoying can't help but burst into laughter at the unexpected gesture. Yanchu watches her, secretly wondering why her beautiful friend looked so upset just a moment ago. She studies Shaoying's face, her heart doing backflips at the sight of that genuine smile. Shaoying takes a sip of the warm drink, the heat spreading through her body as she feels Yanchu's gaze. Yanchu jokes that she only knew where to find her because she's so famous. Shaoying giggles, the tension from the day finally melting away. But then a loud, betrayal-level grumble echoes from Shaoying's stomach. Our girl turns bright red, admitting she was so busy she completely forgot to eat dinner. It's a total chibai moment as her stomach growls again, demanding to be fed. Yanchu just laughs, claiming she's actually pretty hungry herself. She flexes her local knowledge, suggesting a secret wanton stand nearby. She asks if Shaoying wants to go together, and the invitation feels like the start of something big. Shaoying hesitates for a second, her heart racing faster than a runaway carriage. But then she gives in to the temptation of good food and even better company. She flashes a dazzling smile, agreeing to the late-night date. Clutching her warm drink, she looks like a girl who's finally found where she belongs. I like wontons, she cheers, her excitement being the cutest thing ever. They arrive at the humble stall where the local kids are playing and the air is thick with delicious steam. Yanchu tells her to take a seat, promising the food will be ready in no time. She leads the way, acting like a true gentleman despite the casual setting. 2 bowls of piping hot wontons are placed before them, smelling like pure heaven. Shaoying is blown away by the simple beauty of the meal. She takes her first bite, her eyes widening at the incredible flavor. The filling is delicious, she exclaims, her inner foodie coming out to play. Yanchu can't stop staring, thinking that Shaoying looks even more stunning without all the stage makeup and fancy dresses. Our girl is too busy enjoying her soup to notice the swoon-worthy look she's getting. Yanchu is just happy to be the one who brought that joy to her face. But the peaceful vibes are suddenly ruined by a pair of tattooed arms looming in the background. Yanchu senses the danger immediately, her expression shifting from soft to lethal. A thug slams his hand onto the table, his tattoos marking him as trouble with a capital T. He calls out to his boss, his voice dripping with arrogance. The thugs surround the poor stall owner, intimidating the family just trying to make a living. They loom over the stand, acting like they own the entire street. The regular customers start to scatter, terrified of the violence about to break out. The stall owners tremble, their livelihood threatened by these heartless goons. Even the children are crying, huddling together in fear of the monsters in front of them. Yanchu's eyes go cold, her protective instincts kicking into overdrive as she stares them down. The thugs show off their ink, thinking they're the baddest things in the city. But they have no idea they've just interrupted dinner for the one person they should never provoke. In a memory of a simpler time, our girl was just a child with a pocket full of marbles. She worked hard for every little thing she had, kneeling in the dirt just to play a game. The local thugs are busy terrorizing a small business owner who's just trying to survive. The boss, Brother Tian, has zero chill and demands his cut, claiming he's already been more than generous. He slams his hand on the table to show he's not playing games. But before things can get ugly, a mysterious hand reaches out and stops him in his tracks. It's Shaoying, and she's looking absolutely savage as she interrupts the shakedown. Our girl Yanchu can only watch in shock as Shaoying steps into the line of fire. Shaoying puts on her best innocent starlet act, pretending she's just bumped into a group of famous celebrities. The thugs are completely thrown off by her sudden appearance and overwhelming charisma. She leans in, flashing a wink that could melt steel, and asks why these big shots haven't visited her club lately. Yanchu clenches her fists, realizing that Shaoying isn't just a singer, She's a master of manipulation who has these criminals wrapped around her finger. The thugs are so flustered they practically trip over themselves to leave, waving goodbye like total fanboys. Our poor heroine is left speechless by the absolute power move she just witnessed. Shaoying finally lets out a sigh of relief, dropping the act the moment the coast is clear. They sit back down to finish their meal, but the atmosphere has completely shifted. As the night deepens and the stars come out, the tension between them becomes electric. Their hands brush against each other on the table, a silent conversation happening in the moonlight. Shaoying finally takes the lead, her fingers intertwining with Yanchu's in a way that makes our hearts swoon. Shaoying admits that being famous isn't all glitz and glamour. In a dramatic flashback, we see her as the shining rose on stage, adored by everyone. But while the crowd cheers for the star, Yanchu feels like nothing more than floating duckweed, lost in the shadow of Shaoying's light. Shaoying senses the heavy mood and quickly tries to laugh it off, telling Yanchu not to overthink things. She explains that her business with the gangs is just a necessary evil to keep her club running. Suddenly, she gets a chaotic idea and invites Yanchu to the Zion Lulling Club for a private show. She wants our girl to be the very first person to hear her new song. They part ways under the crescent moon, with Yanchu's heart racing at the thought of their next meeting. But the romantic vibes are cut short when Yanchu arrives home only to find her father, Yan Zheng's, waiting for her in the shadows. He's not exactly thrilled that his daughter is wandering the streets this late. He scolds her like a true overprotective patriarch, demanding to know where she's been. Meanwhile, Shaoying is actually following them, her eyes widening as she spots Yanchu with the powerful Master Yan. She realizes with a start that Yanchu isn't just a random student. She's the daughter of the man she remembers from her own past. The realization of their shared history hits her like a freight train. Fast forward to Saturday and our girl is trading her dress for a sharp suit, looking like a total boss. She's prepping for a high-stakes VIP meeting that her father insists she attend. He reminds her that she's the successor to their empire and needs to start acting like it. They enter a private room where the atmosphere is thick with menace. They're meeting Yu Zhengping, the sleazy boss of the Zhengping gang. He welcomes them with a fake smile and a table full of delicacies. Yanchu steps forward, introducing herself as the future of the Bi Xing Tang organization with ice-cold confidence. She offers a handshake that feels more like a declaration of war. Little do they know, Shaoying is currently pulling a total ninja move, spying on the meeting from the bushes outside. Yanchu finds the room stifling and slams a window open for some fresh air, nearly giving the hiding Shaoying a heart attack. Inside, the conversation turns dark as Zhengping reveals he's bringing a new, dangerous type of drug into the market. He's looking for a partner to help him flood the streets. Yanchu is visibly disgusted, but Zhengping just laughs, claiming the business is inevitable. He offers her father a piece of the pie. But Yanchu has other plans. She slams her teacup down with enough force to rattle the table. She demands to know why Zhengping's men were seen collecting protection money in her family's territory. Zhengping's face pales as he realizes he's been caught red-handed. He quickly signals his men and a battered, tied-up figure is thrown onto the floor. It's the same thug from the restaurant earlier, now paying the price for his stupidity. Yanchu stares down at the man, her expression unreadable as Zhengping begs for forgiveness. Her father stands up, his shadow looming large as he warns Zhengping to keep his dogs on a tighter leash. He delivers a savage parting shot, telling the gang leader that even if he's dying, his organization is far from useless. Zhengping is left bowing in fear as they walk out. But the moment the door slams, his face twists into a mask of pure rage. Outside, the cold night air greets them. Yanchu's father looks at her with a rare, proud smile. He notes that her eyes never wavered once during the confrontation. He reaches out and pats her head, telling her that she's finally ready to lead. Our girl has officially entered the lion's den, and she's the one with the sharpest teeth. Our girl Shaoying is looking absolutely stunning as she gets ready for her big night. She arrives at the Song of Fairyland club, where the neon lights are as bright as the drama we're about to witness. Inside, a mysterious hand sets down a hat, signaling the arrival of someone important. It's Mr. Tan, a wealthy businessman who looks like he's seen it all, but tonight is going to give him a run for his money. He's 42, rich, and clearly bored out of his mind. The announcer steps up to introduce the club's legendary songbird, and the crowd goes wild. The waiter tries to play it cool while pouring wine, but Mr. Tan is only interested in the main event. As the spotlight hits the stage, the atmosphere completely shifts. Mr. Tan's eyes nearly pop out of his head the moment he sees her. He's so shook he has to adjust his tie just to breathe. On stage, our heroine reaches out, her presence captivating every single person in the room. Shaoying looks like an absolute goddess under those lights, and she knows it. She gives a savage little smirk that could melt a glacier. She commands the stage with the grace of a queen. Mr. Tan is sweating bullets, unable to look away from the woman who looks exactly like someone from his past. He slams his hands down in pure disbelief. He's internally screaming because he can't understand how two people could look so identical. He stares down from the balcony like a man possessed. He rushes out of the VIP lounge, leaving his dignity and his drink behind. The club chairman is huffing and puffing, trying to keep up with the boss's sudden chaotic energy. When asked what's wrong, Tan plays it off with a cold nothing, but we know he's lying through his teeth. They settle back in to talk business, but Tan's mind is clearly elsewhere. The chairman brags about his baby, Shaoying, saying he treats her like his own daughter. Tan asks the big question, how old is she? When he hears she's only 20, he looks even more conflicted. They toast to the night, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Backstage, our girl is heading to her dressing room, unaware she's being followed. She stops dead in her tracks when she realizes someone has invaded her private space. She's not having it and immediately tells the intruder to get out. But Mr. Tan isn't moving. He's staring at her with an intensity that's honestly a bit creepy. He steps toward her, looming over our poor heroine. He's looking for answers, but all he gets is a face full of savage justice. Shaoying delivers a legendary slap that echoes through the hallway. She leaves him with a bleeding cut on his face and a bruised ego. Just then Yanchu arrives, breathless and looking for our girl. Yanchu passes a mysterious, bleeding man in the hall and wonders what kind of chaos just went down. Tan touches his wound, looking more intrigued than angry. Yanchu catches a glimpse of the wealthy businessman and senses something is very wrong. Inside the room, Shaoying is trembling, her heart thumping against her chest from the encounter. Yanchu bursts in, announcing their arrival with a big smile. Shaoying is startled, quickly trying to hide her distress. Yanchu notices the shift in the air immediately. Our girl is acting suspicious, her hand hovering over a desk drawer. Inside that drawer is a literal gun because she is a heroine who stays strapped. She slams it shut before Yanchu can see the heat she's packing. The room is still spinning from the tension as they face each other. Yanchu looks serious, sensing the danger lingering in the air. Shaoying keeps her cool, though her hand is still dangerously close to that drawer. Yanchu demands to know what's going on and why there's a weapon involved. Shaoying tries to play it off, reaching out to touch Yanchu's face with a soft expression. She claims it just for self-defense and that she's totally fine. Yanchu is worried sick, asking if someone was harassing her. She casually mentions a troublesome guest who won't be coming back anytime soon. Yanchu looks her in the eye, wanting to know how to properly protect her. A memory of a hand reaching out flashes through the air, reminding her of why she needs to be strong. But Shaoying is a boss and declares she can protect herself. Yanchu tries to lighten the mood with a goofy finger gun gesture, saying no worries. Yanchu goes on a dramatic tangent about wanting to be her protector. Shaoying looks up, her eyes sparkling with a hint of hope. Yanchu leans in, ready to say the words we've all been waiting for. Shaoying waits with bated breath, looking absolutely swoon-worthy. And then Yanchu hits her with the ultimate best friend line, effectively ending us all. The friend zone is real and the awkwardness is palpable. Shaoying recovers her cool and tells Yanchu to follow her. Yanchu trails behind, looking like a kicked puppy. Yanchu is internally screaming, wondering why they feel so dissatisfied after being so supportive. They wonder what exactly they were hoping for in the first place. Shaoying tells them to keep up, leading the way to a secret spot. Yanchu is still shaking off the confusion. They arrive at a set of grand doors. Shaoying reveals the club's beautiful piano room, a place of peace amidst the chaos. She takes a seat at the bench, her dress billowing around her. She begins to play a melody that's as haunting as it is beautiful. Yanchu watches her, finally realizing that our girl is full of surprises and even more talent. Ying is pouring her heart into the keys, the music flowing like a river. She recalls a time she asked the moon to borrow the stars. Looking out at the night sky, she realizes she was just looking for someone to finally see the real her. Our girl is absolutely glowing as she gazes at Yanchu. He watches her with such a soft, intense expression that it's making my heart ache. Suddenly, life starts blooming all around them as the melody takes over the room. The vibe is getting dangerously romantic as they lock eyes. Every touch feels like a spark of pure electricity. She asks if her playing was okay, and he claps like she's a literal angel. It wasn't just okay, it was amazing. Our heroine gets serious for a second, wanting to ask for a huge favor. She's nervous, her heart going ba-dum in her chest. She looks him right in the eye and asks if he'll be her teacher. Why the sudden request? She reveals the heartbreaking truth. She was an orphan at 7 and never had a single day of school. She spent her childhood watching other girls walk into classrooms while she stayed in the shadows. She truly wants to learn to read, to write, and to finally compose more than just simple tunes. Yanchu doesn't hesitate for a second and pulls her into a massive, warm hug. Our girl is stunned, her heart racing a mile a minute at the contact. He whispers that he'll teach her everything he knows and honestly, absolute soon. She melts into him, finally feeling like she has a safe place to land. Her hands tremble as she grips his coat, refusing to let go. This is the peak of cozy, you guys. But of course, the drama has to kick in. Enter this absolute unit of a creep smoking a cigar. This guy is Ying's manager, and he's giving major villain energy. He tells her she's meeting a powerful person next Friday and better be ready. She tries to say she's just tired, but he's not buying it. He reminds her with a sneer that he's the one who saved her from the streets. The trauma hits her like a truck as the memories flood back. We see her as a tiny, starving orphan child. She was just a kid trying to survive on scraps. Then this man appeared with a fake smile, offering her a home and a father. He promised her school, friends, and a better life. And like any desperate child, she reached out and took his hand. 3 years later, that home has turned into a golden prison. Ying Ying is covered in horrific scratches, a silent testament to the abuse she's endured behind closed doors. The door creaks open and the monster walks in. He towers over her, demanding she come out of her room. When she resists, he loses his mind and gets physical. He pins her down, choking the life out of our poor heroine while she gasps for air. He tells her he's doing this for her own good, the ultimate gaslighting move. She screams that she knows the creeps at the music room are touching her, but he just smiles. He doesn't care about her safety. He only sees a little songbird that makes him money. In that moment, every last ounce of gratitude she had for him is crushed. He has the audacity to say he misses when she called him dad. Ying Ying wakes up in a cold sweat, the nightmare feeling all too real. She needs to hear a kind voice, so she reaches for the phone. She calls Yanchu in the middle of the night, desperate for a connection. Hearing her voice, he's immediately alert and worried. He says he hasn't heard from her in days and he's been losing his mind. He tells her he wants to see her right now, and her heart finally finds a reason to beat again. Yanchu rings the bell late at night, and honestly, the audacity of this man to show up unannounced is a lot. Shaoying opens the door instantly, looking like she was practically waiting by the handle for him. Our girl is rocking some very silky sleepwear, apologizing for the late-night wake-up call while looking effortlessly stunning. Yanchu doesn't mind one bit because seeing her is clearly the highlight of his entire night. He's been low-key tracking her schedule and was worried when he heard she was resting for a few days. She invites him into her sanctuary, which is surprisingly cozy and modest for such a big superstar. Yanchu notes that her home is warm and simple, proving she hasn't let the fame go to her head. There's no excessive decoration here, just a vibe that feels like the real, unmasked Shaoying. But the mood shifts as they decide to head out for a midnight stroll under the moonlight. The sea breeze is hitting just right, and Shaoying is finally feeling a sense of peace she hasn't felt in a long time. She reminisces about coming here with her father back in the day before life got complicated. It's a rare moment of pure vulnerability for our heroine. Suddenly, Yanchu reaches out and grabs her hand, and the skin-to-skin contact has her heart doing absolute backflips. They walk along the shore together, looking like a total power couple in the making. The waves crash against the stone wall as they find a secluded spot away from the world. Yanchu lets go of her hand to hop down the ledge with the grace of a cat, ready to catch her. He's being a total gentleman, but Shaoying has other plans than falling into his arms just yet. She tells him to stay put because she has a secret she wants to share with him. Instead of jumping, she starts knocking on the stone wall like she's looking for a hidden entrance. Found it, she pulls out a loose stone to reveal a secret compartment. Inside is a mysterious wooden box that's been tucked away for years. She calls it magic, and the look of pure joy on her face is absolutely precious. Yanchu leans in, curious to see what our girl has been hiding from the rest of the world. She clicks the latch open, revealing her most prized possessions. It's not gold or jewels, but the literal fragments of her childhood. She explains that these are the only things she has left from when she was a beggar on the streets. There's a pearl hair clip and a simple glass bead that she used to play with back then. She shows off a little wood-carved bird that's honestly the cutest thing ever, and a perfume pouch given to her by her only true friend during those dark times. She survived the streets because of a kind-hearted person who looked out for her when no one else would. Yanchu listens intently, his heart breaking for everything she's had to endure. She lost contact with that friend years ago, but she still carries their memory in this box. Seeing these items every day was the only thing that kept her happy when things got tough. Yanchu asks the million-dollar question, what exactly happened to her friend? She moved away with her parents and they never saw each other again. Shaoying goes quiet, the weight of the past hanging heavy in the midnight air. She decides to drop the subject before things get too depressing for their walk. Yanchu looks her dead in the eyes, and you can feel the romantic tension rising to boiling point. He tells her to think of him as her best friend from now on. Whether it's a helping hand or just an ear to listen, he's her man for life. He begs her not to turn him away, and honestly, we are all collectively swooning. He promises he will always be there, and he will never leave her side. They sit together in the moonlight, the emotional distance between them finally closing. Shaoying smiles, realizing she might have finally found someone she can truly trust. She jokes that she might start troubling him way too often in the future. He's more than okay with that, giving her his word that he's staying put. Trust me, he says, and honestly, with a face like that, how can she not? But the cold starts to bite, and it's finally time to head back to reality. Yanchu is clearly reluctant to leave this perfect, quiet moment. She has to get back to work tomorrow, so the dream has to end for tonight. But the bond they formed on this beach, that's definitely permanent. Fast forward, and Shaoying is getting ready for another high-stakes night at the club. The master of the house wants her to meet someone special in the piano room. Little does she know, her past is about to collide with her present in the worst way. She walks in looking like a goddess in a floral kipao ready to perform. And there he is, the VIP guest with a look that says he knows exactly who she is. He claims they would meet again, and the atmosphere in the room turns ice cold. The master is confused, wondering when these two could have possibly crossed paths. Shaoying is visibly shaken, her hands trembling as she realizes who is standing before her. This man, Tan Hingsheng, is the new big-shot shareholder of the club. He stares at her with an intensity that's frankly a little bit terrifying. The power dynamic in this room just shifted in a massive, chaotic way. He lets out a smug little hum, clearly enjoying her obvious discomfort. The master formally introduces him, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Shaoying stands there like a deer in headlights, trying to process the shock. She's the famous star, but right now she feels completely trapped by his gaze. He reaches out a hand, and the contact is purely psychological warfare. He demands a song, wanting to see if her voice is as good as the legends say. Shaoying has no choice but to comply with the man who now holds her career in his hands. Her heart is pounding like a drum as she slowly approaches the piano. Tan watches her every move, his eyes filled with a dark, bitter nostalgia. She takes a deep breath, trying desperately to keep her composure together. "Of course you can, Mr. Tan," she whispers, her voice barely holding up under the pressure. She sits down, feeling the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. Her fingers touch the keys, and the first notes of a haunting melody fill the room. It's a song from a lifetime ago, one that carries far too many painful memories. As she plays, the music weaves a spell over everyone present, but it's personal for Tan. For Mr. Tan, it's a direct trip down a very dark and painful memory lane. The notes are cold, echoing the massive distance that has grown between them. To Shaoying, every key feels like ice, reminding her of the life she left behind. A face from the past flickers in her mind, full of warmth and a love that's long gone. She played this very song for him once, in a life that feels like a fever dream now. Now she's playing it for a stranger who wears his face but carries none of his heart. Every second of this performance is pure, unadulterated agony for her. They were too young back then, completely unaware of the pain that true loss could bring. Only now does she realize that some things in life can never be replayed. Life isn't a song you can just start over when you hit a sour note. Mr. Tan closes his eyes, hearing a different voice in his head calling out his old name. Sheng, the ghost of a girl, whispers from the darkest shadows of his mind. He remembers the letter that shattered his entire world, the one where his love chose another. 10 years have passed, but the image of their younger selves is still burned into his brain. They were just kids on a bench, sharing simple treats and making impossible dreams. A rabbit-shaped snack was all they needed to be perfectly happy back then. But the harsh reality of their different family statuses eventually tore them apart. He ran until his lungs burned, but he couldn't escape the truth of her departure. He thought their love was worth more than all the silver and gold in the world. But empty promises don't fill stomachs or satisfy the demands of greedy parents. She told him to let go of their dreams and never come looking for her again. He cried out in the dark, begging for an explanation that he never received. He was left with nothing but a broken heart and a drive for cold, hard vengeance. Why did she choose the money over him? That question has haunted his every waking hour. His father tried to justify it, saying the Tan family was simply beyond her reach. But to a boy in love, endless silver was a poor substitute for his soulmate. He spent years building an empire just to prove he was worth more than any price tag. A decade of true love, defeated by the very thing he now has in abundance. He snaps the memory of that rabbit snack in half, just like his heart was snapped years ago. He remembers her smile, her laugh, and the way she once promised to be his forever. It was all a beautiful, cruel lie that he was foolish enough to believe. "Can I marry you when we grow up?" she asked, and he said yes with everything he had. She told him he better remember that promise, and oh boy, he remembers every single detail and every single moment of that betrayal. Back in the present, Mr. Tan is sweating, the mask of the cool businessman finally slipping. The master asks if he was captivated, and the irony is almost too much to bear. He's been abroad for 20 years trying to forget, but one song brought it all back. He looks at Shaoying, seeing the ghost of Ryuan standing right there beside her. The past isn't dead, it's sitting right there at the piano, playing his heartstrings like a pro. Our girl is finally getting ready for the night ahead. She sits down to play the piano, but Mr. Tan is watching her with way too much interest. He's absolutely swooning, claiming her voice is as clear as an oriole's. Shaoying isn't fooled though, knowing exactly how to play into these men's nostalgia. The bald boss is loving the attention she's getting, practically throwing her at the man. Mr. Tan eventually gets up to leave, mentioning he has some serious business to attend to. As he walks out, the boss pours another drink, looking far too pleased with himself. Shaoying makes her exit too, but she can't help but think her boss is a total old fox. She lingers by the door and overhears them discussing Bi Xing Tang. Apparently, the situation there is getting messy with a new master about to take over. She stays rooted to the spot, trying to catch every detail of their secret conversation. The boss catches on and tells her to close the door on her way out with a chilling smile. She clicks the door shut, her heart racing as she processes what she just heard. Shaoying doesn't waste a second and rushes down the stairs. She's heading straight to meet her favorite person, Yanchu. He's been waiting for her outside, looking as calm as ever. She apologizes for the delay, but he's just happy she's finally here. He admits he couldn't even focus on his book because he was too busy thinking about her. They head inside for their private lesson. She's determined to be a good student, even if she's just using it as an excuse to be near him. Yanchu is a bit nervous, admitting it's his first time playing the teacher. Shaoying gazes at him, telling him to be more confident because she's really looking forward to this. They start by reading some classic poetry together. Their shadows on the floor look perfectly synchronized as they lean in close. Yanchu guides her through the lines, his voice steady and warm. Shaoying admits she might be a bit of a struggle student, but he just smiles, saying they have all the time in the world to get it right. As they turn the page, their arms accidentally brush against each other. Yanchu's heart starts doing backflips the moment they touch. He's never been this close to her before, and he's completely losing his cool. He has to physically tell himself to concentrate before he does something chaotic. They lose track of time, reading aloud until the middle of the night. They've grown so used to the sound of each other's heartbeats in the quiet room. The moon hangs high as they continue their intimate study session. Shaoying reads a poem about a bird trapped in a golden cage. She looks down at her own life, feeling the weight of the metaphor. She looks at Yanchu and wonders if he could be the key to her cage. She watches him with a soft expression, realizing how much he means to her. The next morning, Yanchu is jolted awake by a very loud visitor. It's Ahe, and he looks like he's been through a literal war zone. Ahe is the second in command at Bi Xing Tang, and he's got no filter. They head over to see the big boss, who notices Ahe's banged-up head immediately. Ahe tries to play it off by saying he just fell down the stairs, but nobody is buying it. The boss gets straight to business, announcing that the manager of the port casino has passed away. He wants Yanchu to take over the management immediately. Yanchu is hesitant, knowing he's an outsider to that part of the business. But the boss insists he go and assess the situation today. Yanchu and Ahe arrive at the casino with a full entourage. The place is absolutely buzzing and incredibly noisy. People are gambling their lives away at every table. Yanchu scans the room, realizing the business is just as lively as ever. He notices a pair of guards standing stiffly outside the VIP room. Sensing something is off, he decides he needs to go in and take a look. He pushes the door open, stepping into a much more refined atmosphere. A mysterious woman is waiting for him inside. He tells his men to stay back while he handles this alone. A pair of high heels clicks against the floor as she approaches. Yanchu keeps his guard up as he enters the lion's den. Meet Liu Lingshan, the 31-year-old widow of the late manager. Yanchu observes her closely and notices there isn't a single trace of sadness on her face. He wonders if there was some serious trouble between her and her husband. She calmly lights a cigarette, looking more like a boss than a grieving widow. She drops a bombshell, revealing she's the one who's been running this place for years. Her husband was a violent coward who eventually drank himself to death. She's savage, admitting she was already planning to visit Yanchu anyway. She gets straight to the point, telling him she wants to continue managing the casino. Yanchu doesn't even hesitate and tells her she can keep the job. He recognizes that for a woman to survive in this world, she has to be extraordinary. Liu Lingshan is stunned by how quickly he made the decision. He tells her he'll be coming by often to inspect her work, so she better not let him down. She watches him walk away, genuinely impressed by his resolve. She thinks to herself that Yanchu and the old boss are actually very much alike. Yanchu strides out of the casino, ready to take on whatever chaos comes next. But Dr. Tang delivers the crushing news that the master's condition is terminal. He explains that the illness is incurable and the best he can do is manage the pain. Our poor heroine is told her father's days are numbered and she must stay by his side. Yanchu tries to stay strong, but she's struggling to face the reality of the inevitable. The door clicks open as she tries to process the grief. A concerned man steps into the room, his eyes fixed on our exhausted girl. The atmosphere is heavy with unspoken sorrow. He looks at her with deep worry, seeing how much she's suffering. He calls out to Yanchu softly, noticing she looks like a ghost of her former self. He tells her to go and rest, promising to guard her father himself. Yanchu hesitates, her heart heavy with worry. He insists she's been on guard for too long and needs a break. She finally relents as her father continues his pain sleep. She looks at him one last time, her heart breaking in the silence. The room feels suffocatingly quiet. She leaves the bedside, but the weight of the situation follows her every step. Outside, the sound of the rain begins to mimic her inner turmoil. But before she leaves, she clutches his hand one last time. "Please, Dad, don't leave me alone," she whispers in a moment that is absolutely gut-wrenching. Our girl can barely bring herself to let go. Suddenly, a knock at the door breaks the tragic mood. A servant announces that a guest has arrived downstairs. Yanchu is caught completely off guard. She wonders who could possibly be visiting at a time like this. She heads down the grand staircase to meet the mystery guest. Her eyes widen in shock when she sees who it is. Standing in the hall looking at the family photos is Shaoying. Shaoying turns around as soon as she hears Yanchu's footsteps. Our girl rushes down, breathless and confused. She asks why her friend is here so suddenly. Shaoying looks at her with a soft, knowing expression. She admits she came to thank her benefactor. Yanchu is baffled, since when did her family become Shaoying's benefactors? Shaoying points directly to the man in the photo. She explains that she couldn't find the right time to tell her the truth before. Years ago, when she was just a starving child on the streets, a kind man saved her life. Yanchu realizes the timing matches a story her father once told. It was her father who fed the little girl in the straw hat all those years ago. Our girl is stunned by this massive twist of fate. Shaoying confirms that Mr. Yan is the reason she's standing here today. A flashback shows the master's kindness as he provided buns to the starving child. Shaoying never forgot his face or his name. Yanchu finally connects the dots and realizes why they were destined to meet. She's moved by the connection, but the sadness quickly returns. She reveals that her father is currently fighting for his life. Shaoying's face falls as the gravity of the situation hits her. They head up to the room where the master is resting. He looks so frail and small under the heavy blankets. Yanchu confesses that watching him suffer every single day is a special kind of torture. She admits that if she could, she would take his place in a heartbeat. Shaoying reaches out, placing a comforting hand on her friend. Yanchu talks about how her father had to be both parents to her after her mother passed. Shaoying sees a vulnerable side of Yanchu she never imagined. She pulls our girl into a supportive hug, letting her know she's not alone. The master begins to cough, slowly waking from his slumber. Yanchu is at his side in an instant, her face lit with hope. Shaoying steps forward, apologizing for being so presumptuous. The master looks up, blinking in confusion at the visitor. Shaoying introduces herself properly as Weng Shaoying. She reminds him of the kindness he showed a little girl at a bun shop a lifetime ago. He smiles, the memory coming back to him clearly. He's genuinely touched to see she grew up to be such a fine woman. Yanchu is beaming, seeing her father find a moment of happiness. The master insists that Shaoying stays to share a meal with them. They head down to the dining room to celebrate the reunion. Suddenly, that chaotic guy pops up out of nowhere to ruin the mood. He starts teasing Shaoying about her extraordinary personality. Yanchu has zero patience for his nonsense and gives him a savage kick under the table. He yelps in pain while the girls try to keep a straight face. The master watches their antics, feeling a rare sense of peace. He tells Shaoying how happy he is that Yanchu finally has a real friend. He admits that because of his status and past, his daughter grew up quite lonely. Shaoying looks at Yanchu with deep admiration and respect. She sees the unbreakable bond between father and daughter and is deeply moved. She thanks the master for raising such an incredible person. A luxurious feast is laid out, and for a moment the tragedy is forgotten. It's a rare moment of genuine joy for the household. They dig in, the atmosphere finally feeling light and warm. The teaser guy tries to get some attention again, but he's quickly shut down. But amidst the laughter, the master's expression shifts. He coughs into a napkin, and our hearts sink as we see the blood. He hides it instantly, determined not to ruin this perfect moment. He raises a glass, masking his pain with a smile. He wishes the three of them a future filled with endless possibilities. Cheers, they all cry out, clinking their glasses together. Later, it's time for Shaoying to head home. But as she steps out, the sky has turned a menacing shade of black. A massive storm rolls in with a roar. The sudden change in weather feels like a dark omen for the chaos that's about to come. Our girl is getting ready for a night that's about to take a dark turn. Outside, the heavens have opened up, mirroring the internal storm brewing within the manor. Yanchu stands in the pouring rain, looking like a lost soul as she begs to be let in. She's completely drenched, her usual ironclad composure washed away by grief. The sound of the rain against the shutters is the only thing filling the oppressive silence. Yanchu looks absolutely devastated, her heart breaking right in front of us. She ran over the second she heard the news, her breathing heavy and her eyes wild with pain. Shaoying is just as soaked, but she doesn't care about the cold or the wet clothes. She pulls Yanchu into a desperate, bone-deep hug, trying to be the anchor she needs. Yanchu barely notices her own state, her mind completely elsewhere as she touches Shaoying's hair. The weight of the world is settling on their shoulders right now. Inside the room, the atmosphere is heavy enough to suffocate. They cling to each other as if the world might end if they let go. Shaoying can't hold back the tears anymore, her heart breaking for her poor friend. The grief is raw, messy, and loud in the quiet room. Yanchu finally breaks, her mask of the strong successor crumbling into a million pieces. Shaoying whispers that she's here and she's not going anywhere. Yanchu just sobs, letting out all the pain she's been trying to hide from the world. It's a side of her we've never seen, completely vulnerable and shattered. She talks about how her father tried so hard to look strong until his very last days. But even the strongest people have a breaking point, and she's reached hers. A sudden knock at the door ruins the fragile moment. It's a he, and he looks like he's carrying the weight of the entire organization on his back. He enters with a grim expression, knowing the clock is ticking for the family. The funeral arrangements are already being made, and there's no time left for tears. He tells Yanchu she needs to get ready because the guests are already arriving. Our girl watches Yanchu, realizing the massive burden she's about to inherit so suddenly. Yanchu tries to find her strength, thanking Ahe for his hard work during the crisis. But Ahe isn't pulling any punches. He tells her she needs to pull herself together right now. Bi Xing Tang is at stake, and they can't afford a leader who looks defeated. The pressure is insane, and Yanchu knows she has to step up or lose everything. As the lights flicker, the reality of her new life sets in. She asks Shaoying if she's going home, probably expecting to be left alone in this nightmare. But our girl isn't a quitter. She looks her dead in the eye and says she's staying by her side. Lightning strikes, sealing the deal as the storm outside reaches a fever pitch. Downstairs, the vultures are already circling, whispering about the sudden death of the master. They're worried about their businesses and who's going to protect their interests now. The room is packed with men who think they can take advantage of the power vacuum. Ahe bellows for silence, his voice cutting through the greed like a knife. The entire hall goes dead quiet as they look up toward the balcony. Yanchu stands there looking down at the people she's now tasked to lead. She walks forward with a new, terrifying grace. She looks like a true queen of the underworld, cold and untouchable. She reminds them that Bi Xing Tang has stood for decades, and she's seen every single one of them grow up. She knows exactly what they're thinking. Why should a young woman take over? Shaoying watches from the shadows, her heart in her throat as Yanchu faces the crowd. Yanchu points to the door and gives them a savage choice. If you want to leave, leave now and there will be no trouble. But she warns them that if they choose to stay, they better keep their thoughts to themselves. Her gaze is like ice as she tells them that if anyone dares to mess with her family's legacy, she will personally make them disappear. She crushes the wooden railing with her bare hand to prove she's not joking. The message is received loud and clear by everyone in the room. Ahe is the first to bow, acknowledging his new master. Soon the entire room follows suit, shouting their loyalty to the new head of Bi Xing Tang. Shaoying looks up, completely in awe of the woman Yanchu has become. Back in the quiet of the room, the adrenaline fades, leaving only exhaustion. Shaoying notices the time and realizes she should probably head out to give Yanchu some space. But Yanchu grabs her, her voice trembling as she begs her not to leave. She's still that grieving girl underneath all that power. Shaoying can't say no to those eyes. She ends up changing into some of Yanchu's pajamas, which are way too big for her. It's a rare moment of domesticity in the middle of all this drama. She peeks into the office and finds Yanchu slumped over her desk, sobbing over a photo of her father. It's a heartbreaking reminder of what she's lost. We see a flashback of her father's final warnings about the vile people in their world. He warned her about the dangers of opium and the snakes waiting in the grass. He reminisced about taking her to the beach when she was a child, calling himself her big boat that could take her anywhere. Yanchu had promised to take him back to the beach once he got better. He told her how happy he was to be her father in this lifetime, and she told him she was just as happy to be his daughter. Then he simply closed his eyes and went to sleep forever. The memory fades like waves on a shore. Yanchu is finally asleep, her brow still furrowed even in her dreams. Shaoying watches her, her heart overflowing with a mix of pity and something much deeper. She reaches out to gently caress Yanchu's face, wanting to smooth away all that pain. She leans in closer, her fingers tracing the line of Yanchu's lips. Her heart is thumping so loud she's sure it'll wake the dead. But she can't help herself. She leans down, drawn in by the magnetic pull between them. Yanchu's eyes snap open, catching her in the act. Shaoying panics, her face turning a bright shade of crimson as she tries to scramble away. But Yanchu isn't letting her escape this time. She pulls our girl into a deep, passionate kiss that says more than words ever could. In that moment, the rest of the world and its dangers simply don't exist. The light finally goes out, leaving them in a world of their own. Paper money flutters through the air as the somber portrait of the former master is held high. Our girl Yanchu carries the weight of her father's legacy with a heart made of lead. The funeral is a massive, cold affair, a chilling reminder of the power her family once wielded. She bows before the altar, the scent of burning incense thick enough to choke her. Looking at his face, she knows her peaceful days are officially over. While the guests wail and cry, Yanchu remains a statue of stoic grief. But there's no time for mourning when a subordinate whispers that the new master needs to greet the guests. Enter Uncle Peng, looking like a total sleazebag, alongside a mysterious merchant named Mr. Tan. This oily old man asks if she's forgotten him already, dripping with fake sincerity. Yanchu isn't falling for it, giving him a look that could freeze the sun. Peng laughs it off, bragging about being her father's best friend for a decade. He introduces Mr. Tan, a wealthy merchant back from overseas who smells like trouble and expensive cologne. Mr. Tan offers a hand, his eyes lingering just a bit too long for comfort. He claims he wants to work together, but we all know that's code for taking over. Our girl decides to play nice for now, keeping her guard up behind a polite mask. The handshake is a silent declaration of war wrapped in a business deal. Tan's gaze is sharp, calculating every weakness he can find in our heroine. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as a familiar red-haired beauty appears in the crowd. Yanchu's heart nearly stops. It's Shaoying, the last person she expected to see here. Our poor girl Shaoying looks absolutely lost in this den of lions. Yanchu immediately breaks her cool exterior to rush to her side. Shaoying is startled as Uncle Peng tries to get way too friendly with her. The old creep is practically salivating, recognizing the famous singer. But Yanchu isn't having it, stepping in with lightning speed. She grabs Peng's hand before he can lay a finger on her girl. Pulling Shaoying close, she marks her territory in front of everyone. She introduces her to the vultures, her voice steady and protective. "She's my close friend," she says, though her body language says so much more. Peng laughs nervously, realizing he just touched a very dangerous nerve. Shaoying gives her a soft, grateful look, causing our savage master to actually blush. But Mr. Tan is watching the whole exchange like a hawk. He smells a secret and wonders if they are truly just friends. He boldly asks Yanchu for permission to have a private chat with Shaoying. He reaches out and the tension in the air is thick enough to cut. Yanchu is instantly suspicious, asking how on earth they know each other. Tang claims he's just a fan of her singing, but his smirk says he knows a lot more. Shaoying tells Yanchu to go handle her duties, promising she'll be okay. Our girl leaves reluctantly, her eyes filled with worry as she walks away. She asks her loyal subordinate for a light, needing something to calm her nerves. She takes a long drag, feeling the weight of the world and her jealousy combining into a toxic mix. From the balcony, she watches Tan and Shaoying talk, her heart simmering with rage. She's too far away to hear a single word, which is driving her absolutely insane. Seeing them together makes her realize just how much she has to lose. Her subordinate warns her that Shaoying's world is a lot more complex than it looks. Yanchu just smokes, wondering if she's dragging her pure friend into a muddy swamp. Her man's eyes are full of concern for the new master's heart. He asks if their organization is really that bad, and the silence is deafening. The air in the city feels foul, and a storm is finally starting to brew. Lightning cracks across the sky as the atmosphere turns deadly. Yanchu thinks of her father, realizing the sharks are finally circling for the kill. The sound of marching feet echoes through the courtyard. Uninvited guests have arrived. She hears the commotion and her instincts instantly flare up. A man rushes in screaming that a gang of armed thugs is charging the gates. They aren't here to pay respects, they're here for blood. Yanchu crushes her cigarette and loosens her tie. It's time to show them who the real boss is. Inside, Shaoying hears the noise and realizes something has gone horribly wrong. She doesn't hesitate, bolting toward the exit despite the danger. She shakes off Mr. Tan's grip, her only thought being Yanchu's safety. She runs through the crowd of panicked guests, desperate to reach the hall. The guards scream at her to stay back as they slam the heavy doors shut. She watches through the closing gap as Yanchu steps out to face the mob alone. "Yanchu," she cries out, but the heavy wood thuds shut, sealing her inside. Our heroine doesn't even flinch, her face a mask of cold, hard steel. She stands tall before the doors, the master of her domain. Her eyes are burning with a savage light. These fools chose the wrong day to mess with her. The masked thugs think they have the upper hand, but they have no idea what's coming. Surrounded by her most loyal men, Yanchu prepares for the slaughter. The tension is electric, the silence before the storm finally breaks. She mocks them for being raised by dogs with zero manners. Picking a fight at her father's funeral, that was their final mistake. The thugs scream insults, brandishing their blades with arrogant smirks. Yanchu grips her weapon, her knuckles white with fury. Since their parents didn't teach them, she'll gladly provide a lesson in pain. Lightning strikes the earth the moment she makes her move. The sky explodes in white as the first drop of blood hits the ground. It's a chaotic dance of steel and shadows as the two sides clash. Yanchu's a blur of motion, landing a bone-shattering strike on the lead thug. She moves with a grace that is both beautiful and terrifying. A sword clatters to the ground as the thugs realize they've walked into a meat grinder. Standing in the pouring rain, our savage queen surveys the wreckage of her enemies. Rain lashes down as the sound of a brutal confrontation echoes through the air. Yanchu isn't just taking hits, she's absorbing the impact like a pro. In the heat of the moment, her father's words echo in her mind, that to protect the ones she loves, she must become a force to be reckoned with. She grits her teeth, the weight of her responsibilities fueling her fire. One thug lunges with a blade, screaming for her head. But our girl is faster than a caffeine-fueled squirrel. She delivers a lightning-quick strike that leaves the goon wondering if he just got hit by a truck. With a savage wham, she sends another flying back into the mud. She pins the leader down, her blade mere millimeters away from ending his bloodline right then and there. The leader freezes, blood dripping from his face as he realizes he messed with the wrong woman. His lackeys can only watch in horror, realizing their family jewels were almost served on a silver platter. Yanchu looks down at the pathetic man, her gaze cold and unforgiving. She lets out a sharp TCH, telling them to get lost before she actually loses her temper. Standing tall in the rain, our heroine looks absolutely chaotic and fierce, even with the blood of her enemies staining her shirt. The thugs don't need a second invitation to flee for their lives. Her ally watches them run, wondering why she's letting such trash walk away. Yanchu shrugs it off, they were just small fry looking for a payday. But as she looks at the leader's face, she recognizes him. He's the younger brother of a man who died years ago, and he's clearly been nursing a grudge fueled by gambling debts. She sighs, pushing back her wet hair as she realizes that even if she didn't pull the trigger, the cycle of hate never truly ends. Her ally warns her that this is just the beginning. As long as Bi Xing Tang exists, they'll have enemies crawling out of the woodwork. Yanchu's expression softens into one of deep worry. She clenches her fist, wondering if her strength will ever be enough to truly keep her loved ones safe. Meanwhile, the retreating thugs meet up with a shady character named Tianji, who hands over a bribe with a sinister grin. This guy is clearly the puppet master, and he's got villain written all over his gold-toothed face. With intimidating tattoos and a gaze that screams trouble, he's definitely going to be a thorn in our girl's side. Back at the ancestral shrine, the doors finally open and a worried Shaoying appears. She spots Yanchu and rushes over, her heart practically jumping out of her chest. She panics at the sight of the blood, but Yanchu quickly reassures her that she's perfectly fine. In fact, she flashes a smug little smile, clarifying that none of this blood actually belongs to her. Shaoying isn't amused, telling her she doesn't have to act tough all the time. Yanchu looks at her, the memory of their shared kiss burning in the back of her mind, but she's interrupted before she can spill her guts. She has to go deal with the relatives, leaving Shaoying standing there looking adorable and confused. Her ally teases her for having a face as long as a horse, then points out that Shaoying is currently being cornered by the persistent Mr. Tan. Seeing another man near her girl sends Yanchu into an absolute jealous rage. She's literally fuming, ready to throw hands with anyone who breathes in Shaoying's direction. Over at the pavilion, Shaoying is laying down the law, telling Mr. Tan in no uncertain terms to stop his creepy pursuit. She's done being polite about his unwanted advances. But Mr. Tan just smirks, acting like he's some deep philosopher. He claims he just wants her to be as free as a bird in the sky, which is honestly a top-tier nice guy red flag. Shaoying isn't buying his poetic nonsense for a second. She firmly states she has no intention of leaving her current life or the people in it. He plays it off like it's no big deal, but then has the audacity to say he won't stop pursuing her, he'll just be less reckless about it next time. Suddenly, a dark shadow looms over them. The two look up in surprise, as Yanchu arrives, radiating a terrifying "stay away from my woman" energy. Shaoying quickly tries to de-escalate, saying they were just saying goodbye. Mr. Tan tries to play the gentleman, praising Yanchu for her hard work. He even offers to drive Shaoying home, but Yanchu shuts that down with a savage hand gesture. She firmly declares that she'll be the one taking Shaoying back. She looks Shaoying in the eye, her expression softening just a fraction, and tells her they need to talk. Shaoying, sensing the shift in the air, simply agrees. As they drive through the city, the silence is heavy with everything they haven't said. Yanchu flashes back to that fateful night, remembering the moment she turned off the light. Her heart was pounding against her ribs. As she hovered over Shaoying in the dark, she remembers feeling so reckless and impulsive, worried that she was crossing a line before they were even honest with each other. Shaoying had been a blushing mess, completely at her mercy. After a soft goodnight, the memory fades back into the reality of the car ride. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as they sit side by side. Shaoying finally breaks the silence, asking what was so important. Yanchu fidgets, looking like she'd rather be fighting 10 more thugs than having this conversation. She finally blurs out an apology for her behavior that night. She claims she was just in a weird mindset and didn't mean to offend her. She insists she had no ulterior motive and hopes Shaoying won't think too much of it. She basically tells her to just forget the whole thing ever happened. Shaoying's heart visibly shatters as she looks away, her expression turning cold and distant. The space between them in the car suddenly feels like a canyon. Yanchu awkwardly asks if there's anything else, looking completely miserable even though she's the one who friend-zoned herself. Shaoying quietly says no, her voice trembling slightly. She stares out the window, her eyes full of unspoken pain. She thinks back to all their moments together from the very beginning to now. Every gentle word, every caring expression, every touch. She wonders if it was all just wishful thinking on her part. Was that kiss just a mistake to be erased? Heartbroken, she forces herself to accept Yanchu's explanation. But as she looks at Yanchu one last time, she makes a vow, no matter what Yanchu thinks, Shaoying will always be there for her. She'll wait until our heroine finally pulls her head out of the sand and realizes what's right in front of her. As the sun sets over the city, the to-be-continued sign mocks us while our girls are stuck in a cycle of yearning and miscommunication. Lady Shen makes a grand entrance, looking every bit the queen of the underground as her men stand at attention. Everything seems to be running smoothly, or so she thinks. Suddenly, a mysterious man in a brown suit barrels right into her as he makes a break for the exit. The collision is far from an accident. Our girl shoots him a look that could kill, but the stranger doesn't even stop to apologize. She realizes this isn't the first time their paths have crossed lately, and senses something is definitely up. She orders her guard to hunt him down immediately, and he doesn't need to be told twice. While the drama unfolds outside, the atmosphere inside remains tense. Her guard returns completely out of breath, forced to admit the guy was way too fast and vanished into thin air. Lady Shen just takes a slow drag of her cigarette, unbothered, knowing full well he'll be back for more. Her guard is skeptical, but she's playing the long game. She knows a thrill seeker when she sees one, and this little game of cat and mouse is just getting started. She remembers the way he smirked during the bump. That wasn't just a smile, it was a challenge. Later that night, Lady Shen is lounging at the club when she spots a familiar-looking hat in the crowd. She moves with savage precision, ordering her men to serve drinks to everyone, but to make sure the gentleman in the hat gets a little something extra in his glass. Her guard thinks she's lost it since the guy looks totally different, but Lady Shen trusts her gut. She's willing to take the heat if she's wrong, but she rarely is. She watches with a predatory gaze, waiting for the trap to spring. And just like that, gotcha. The gentleman turns out to be a feisty young girl in disguise, now tied up and at Lady Shen's mercy. Our girl mocks the little brat for thinking she could outsmart her. She gets right in her face, demanding to know exactly how much she managed to swipe. The thief stays silent, but Lady Shen isn't having it. She decides to take matters into her own hands and start searching the girl herself. She feels something hidden beneath the girl's clothes. The thief glares at her, but she's completely pinned down. Lady Shen dismisses her guards to have a private chat. She questions why a girl with her looks is out here living the life of a criminal. The girl finally snaps back, telling her to mind her own business. Lady Shen smirks. She finally got the little bird to chirp. She grabs the girl's chin, noting how her soft voice would have definitely given her away if she'd spoken sooner. She leans in close, reminding the brat that at the end of the day, a thief is still a thief. The interrogation is cut short when a guard announces that the master has arrived. Lady Shen tells the girl to be a good little thief and wait right there for her second lesson. The door creaks open, and in walks Yanchu, wondering if her friend is busy. Lady Shen proudly brags about the girl she just caught, but when they both turn around, they're met with a pair of blank stares. The chair is empty and the window is wide open. Our little thief pulled a disappearing act. Out on the street, the girl is humming a happy tune, completely free. She's practically skipping away from the scene of the crime. She tips her hat, celebrating her narrow escape. Her long hair flows in the wind as she finally sheds the disguise. She pulls out her latest prize, a stunning glittering brooch. It's Lady Shen's favorite piece, and you just know our villainess is going to be absolutely livid when she finds out she's been played. Meanwhile, Yanchu heads over to the Song of Fairyland theater. She's been coming here for 4 days straight, clearly looking for someone. Her mind is stuck on Shaoying and the way things ended between them. She's desperate to apologize and make things right. As she sits in the VIP section, a familiar face in a white hat approaches her. It's the thief girl again, now in a brand new outfit and causing trouble for the staff. The lights dim and the show finally begins as Weng Shaoying is announced. Shaoying steps onto the stage looking absolutely radiant. The thief girl's eyes go wide as she realizes Shaoying is actually alive. She starts clapping like a maniac, drawing all the wrong kind of attention. She's so swept up in emotion that she doesn't even care who sees her. The waiter tries to kick her out for being a nuisance, but she stands her ground. Yanchu intervenes, coolly claiming the girl is her guest. The waiter immediately backs off, apologizing to Master Yan. The thief girl realizes she just got saved by someone very important. Yanchu invites her to take a seat and enjoy the show. As Shaoying's voice fills the room, Yanchu gets lost in the music and her own regrets. She's clearly hurting, and the song is hitting way too close to home. The thief girl notices the tension and asks if Yanchu and the singer are a thing. Yanchu is nearly startled out of her seat. She admits she came just to see Shaoying perform. The girl finds Yanchu's endless questions hilarious and mentions she's also looking for someone. She winks, saying she's basically found them already. She then asks why Yanchu is wearing men's clothes. Yanchu delivers a savage response, explaining that clothes are just meant to cover the body and she chooses pants for the sheer convenience. The girl stares at her, totally stunned by the logic. She bursts out laughing, finding Yanchu incredibly interesting. She asks for her name and Yanchu gives it before getting up to leave. The girl grabs her arm, giving her one last playful smile and hoping they meet again. She vanishes into the night before Yanchu can even ask her name in return. Yanchu stands there for a moment, feeling a bit dazed. The show finally wraps up, and Yanchu prepares to leave. But as she reaches for her pocket watch, her heart drops. She remembers the girl's friendly pat on the shoulder. She realizes she's been robbed blind by the very person she just treated to a drink. While Yanchu fumes, our little thief is already miles away, happily stuffing her face with buns and enjoying the spoils of her latest heist. Shaoying is feeling the weight of the world, lost in her own reflection. But a sudden poke on the shoulder breaks her pensive trance. She feels the intrusion and wonders who would dare interrupt her. She spins around looking for a fight, and her eyes go wide with absolute shock. Standing there with a massive bouquet is a face she thought was gone forever. The stranger's eyes sparkle with a familiar mischief. It's her long-lost childhood bestie, Yun Miao, looking like a total dream in that hat. Shaoying can't believe her eyes and has to check if this is even real life. She grabs onto her friend's arm, terrified she might vanish again. Yun Miao just smirks, confirming that she's finally back for good. Our girl finally lets the tears flow as she collapses into a massive emotional hug. But the reunion is cut short when Yanchu storms in, screaming about a thief. The room turns into a chaotic mess of accusations. Yanchu tackles the intruder, demanding her stolen property back immediately. She's ready to throw hands, pinning Yun Miao against the wall. She's fuming, demanding the girl return her watch right this second. Yanchu is absolutely savage when she's angry, and Shaoying looks completely done with the drama. She has to jump in before things get physical, asking what on earth is going on. She explains that this thief is actually her precious childhood friend Yun Miao. Yanchu freezes, remembering the stories of the girl who vanished years ago. The bittersweet memories of their separation come rushing back. Yun Miao just laughs it off, revealing she already slipped the watch back into Yanchu's pocket like a pro. Yanchu realizes she's been played and feels like a total clown as she finds the watch. Shaoying gives her friend a playful whack for being such a chaotic menace the moment she arrived. Yanchu watches them, feeling a sudden sharp sting of jealousy over their bond. She tries to play it cool, but the tension is thick as Shaoying apologizes for her friend's behavior. Yun Miao, ever the social butterfly, drags them both out for a meal to bury the hatchet. Left alone for a second, Yanchu's heart starts racing. She desperately asks if they can still have their private lessons together. Shaoying agrees, but her smile is professional and cold, leaving Yanchu feeling miles away. As Shaoying walks off, Yanchu feels the distance growing. She grabs her hand, begging to go back to how things used to be. She wants the old Shaoying back, but our girl isn't having it. Shaoying looks back with a gaze that cuts deep, telling Yanchu she needs to ask herself why things changed. Later, a doorbell rings at Shaoying's place. Yanchu shows up only to find Yun Miao lounging there like she owns the joint. Apparently, the bestie is moving in, and Yanchu's annoyance is reaching its limit. Yun Miao just teases her, sensing Yanchu's obvious relief that things aren't weird. Inside, Shaoying is sitting at her desk, looking like a literal angel in the sunlight. She's completely focused on her work. A quick poke from Yanchu brings her back to reality. Yun Miao decides to give the couple some privacy and heads out for a mysterious errand. She tells them to study hard while she goes to return something important. The scene shifts as Yun Miao sneaks into a luxury bedroom. She hides in the shadows, watching the window. The gorgeous boss lady Lingxin enters the room in her red silks, looking like a queen. Lingxin senses something is off in the air. Suddenly, Yun Miao lunges from the dark, silencing her with a cloth. Lingxin struggles, but the world goes dark. She wakes up bound to a chair, absolutely livid at the audacity. Yun Miao is just chilling across from her, reading a paper. Lingxin is screaming bloody murder about the break-in. But Yun Miao isn't here to rob her, she's just returning a brooch she'd borrowed earlier. She pins it on Lingxin with a smirk that says she's totally in control. Lingxin is fuming, but Yun Miao just laughs off the threats. The tension in the room is high as they stare each other down. Yun Miao drops the act and asks for a job at the casino. Lingxin is skeptical, wondering what a petty thief could possibly offer her. Yun Miao is determined to prove she can do anything. Lingxin flatly refuses, claiming the casino is no place for a woman like her. Yun Miao calls out the hypocritical excuse, tired of hearing that women don't belong. She stands tall, challenging Lingxin's worldview. She knows Lingxin only succeeded by being twice as ruthless as any man. Lingxin remembers the violence of her past and feels a sudden respect for the girl's guts. She agrees to hire her, but only if she keeps dressing like a man to fit. Yun Miao is so hyped she tackles her new boss in a massive hug. But as soon as the ropes are cut, the tables turn. Lingxin flips her over and pins her to the floor with a knife to her throat. She makes it crystal clear that she hates being threatened. One wrong move and it's game over for our chaotic girl. Lingxin warns her there won't be a second chance. She asserts her dominance, making sure Yun Miao knows exactly who the boss is. Their faces are inches apart, the air crackling with dangerous energy. Lingxin demands absolute respect from now on. She finally lets her up, satisfied that the message was received. But as she walks away, Yun Miao can't help but drops one last snarky comment about the revealing view from down there. The wind blows softly through the window as the mood gets all poetic and deep. These two are diving into some ancient verses about longing, and honestly, our girl is looking absolutely radiant today. Yanchu and Shaoying are getting cozy over their studies, and Yanchu starts breaking down the metaphors like a total scholar. She admits that the more she learns, the more she just wants to see what else is out there. But being the head of the Bi Xing Hall comes with a mountain of stress and zero free time. Shaoying tries to cheer her up, telling her she's actually doing an amazing job. That praise hits different, making Yanchu blush like a total schoolgirl. Suddenly, a tea spill breaks the tension, and as Shaoying cleans up, Yanchu can't help but feel like they've drifted worlds apart. She remembers a time when things were simpler and she promised to always be there. She wonders if she should finally just come clean about all the worries eating her alive. Every night is a struggle of wanting to be close but fearing she'll just cause more pain. Yanchu grips her sleeve, the guilt practically radiating off the screen. She finally speaks up, admitting her mind has been a total mess lately. She brings up that kiss, saying it wasn't just some random impulse. Thinking back to the chaos of the funeral, her only thought was keeping Shaoying safe. To her, Shaoying is the most important person in the world. She was so terrified of putting her in danger that she pushed her away instead. Our poor heroine starts tearing up at the confession. She calls Yanchu a total idiot before pulling her into a savage hug. Just as the vibes get romantic, a wild new character bursts in with a bag of snacks. This chaotic energy belongs to Ji Yun Miao, and she immediately drags Yanchu out for a forced dinner date. They head to a street stall where Yun Miao announces she's the newest hire. She's a 23-year-old ex-thief who's basically a jack of all trades. When asked about her family, she casually drops that her parents kicked her out. Why? Because she told them she likes women. Yanchu's soul nearly leaves her body from the shock. Yunmiao just laughs it off, telling her not to worry because she isn't her type. She explains that she's known since she was a kid and gender just never mattered to her. It's all about the connection and wanting to be intimate with someone you care about. This realization hits Yanchu like a freight train as she thinks about Shaoying. Is that how Shaoying feels? Is that why they're so drawn to each other? Later, Yanchu meets with the sketchy Mr. Peng. He's all smiles and fangs, acting way too friendly. Yanchu cuts the small talk, wanting to know why he called this meeting. He takes his sweet time pouring tea, acting like a total drama queen. He offers her some special osmanthus tea, and finally drops the bombshell. He wants the Tianzihao casino. Yanchu is stunned by the audacity. He claims he needs it for shipping tea since it's right by the port. But Yanchu knows that casino is a gold mine and a strategic cargo hub. She wonders what his real game is. To sweeten the deal, he brings out a heavy hitter. It's a literal gold Pixiu statue, and he's offering 3 of them just for that one property. He insists it's just for the tea, but we all know that's a massive lie. Yanchu keeps her cool and asks for time to think it over. On the way home, the car suddenly screeches to a halt. A woman has collapsed right in the middle of the road. Yanchu jumps out to help, and her eyes go wide with shock. The woman is dressed for a night out and looks totally wasted. As she falls, Yanchu catches her in a perfect dramatic swoop. It's Shaoying, and she smells like a whole brewery. Our girl is completely out of it. Without missing a beat, Yanchu scoops her up in a legendary princess carry. The guys offer to help, but Yanchu is on a mission. She carries her girl away with total ease, proving she's the only one Shaoying needs. Yanchu carefully carries our drunk heroine to bed, looking like the ultimate gentleman. But Shaoying isn't letting him leave that easily, reaching out with a sleepy gaze. Before he can react, she pulls him down and they both tumble onto the sheets in a chaotic tangle. Her hands are locked around his neck and Yanchu's heart is absolutely racing. He braces himself over her, the air between them turning thick with tension. Every thumping heartbeat feels like a drum in the silent room. They are so close that their breaths mingle, and for a second it looks like the end game is finally here. Yanchu clenches his hand, fighting for self-control while she looks this vulnerable. Realizing she's completely out of it, he gives her a soft, pained look, wishing she'd act this cute when she's sober. He gets up to fetch some water, playing the role of the devoted caretaker. Suddenly, Shaoying starts coughing and jolts awake, looking completely disoriented. Yanchu rushes to her side, but she's still half lost in her drunken haze. She reaches out and grabs his lapel with surprising strength. The eye contact is so intense it's practically sizzling. She pulls him closer, refusing to let any distance remain between them. Our girl is clinging to him like he's her only lifeline in a stormy sea. She wraps her arms around him, burying her face in his chest while he stands there frozen. He gently tries to push her back, telling her she needs to sleep it off. But she stubbornly whispers no, her grip tightening. She drops the towel and hugs him even tighter, her emotions overflowing. Yanchu is blushing like a schoolboy, completely at her mercy. She pleads with him not to let go, her voice breaking. He finally gives in, his expression softening into pure devotion. He wraps his arms around her waist, promising he isn't going anywhere tonight. Fast forward to later, and Yanchu is gently waking her up from her slumber. He realizes he actually fell asleep right next to her and panics internally. Shaoying jolts upright, screaming in realization as she sees where she is. He quickly explains that he found her passed out in the road and couldn't just leave her there. But his worry quickly turns into protective rage as he scolds her for being so reckless. She tries to brush it off with a simple thank you, but he's not having it. He demands to know who she was drinking with and why she'd put herself in such a dangerous position. He questions her standing as a star, but Shaoying just gives him a bitter, heartbreaking smile. She reminds him that in the eyes of the powerful, she's just a tool to be used and tossed aside. To them, she's just another singer who has to show up when summoned. Yanchu is stunned, unable to believe she can say something so tragic with a smile on her face. He demands to know exactly who forced her into this. She reveals it was her boss, the head of Fairyland, and the memory of her past struggles flashes back. She begs him not to do anything rash, claiming things are complicated. Yanchu explodes, asking how complicated it can be when she's being treated like property. He towers over her, his anger fueled by how much he hates seeing her suffer. Shaoying hits back with the ultimate question, what are you to me? She challenges him, asking why he thinks he has the right to question her life. The room goes silent as the weight of her words sinks in. She stares at him, her eyes filled with a mix of defiance and pain. Yanchu is left speechless. his protective instincts clashing with the reality of their relationship. Shaoying sits on the bed looking small and utterly exhausted. She's at her breaking point, her composure finally crumbling. She hates that he's seeing her like this, disheveled, weak, and miserable. But Yanchu doesn't turn away. Instead, he drops to his knees before her. They lock eyes in the dim light, the masks finally coming off. He softly tells her that the reason he cares is simple. Shaoying starts to cry, sobbing that she's not the flawless celebrity he thinks she is. She screams that she doesn't even have control over her own life. When she tries to push him away, Yanchu refuses to budge. He pulls her into a crushing hug, silencing her protests. He whispers an apology, his heart breaking for her. He tells her she doesn't have to be perfect for him, he just wants her safe and happy. Shaoying freezes, the warmth of his words melting her defenses. Yanchu looks up, his face flushed but determined. He finally says the three words we've all been waiting for, I love you. He confesses that she's been the center of his world since the moment she appeared. His heart is pounding so hard it's practically audible. Shaoying stares at him, her eyes wide with shock and a glimmer of hope. He tells her he doesn't want to be just a friend, he wants to be her lover. Shaoying is stunned, her breath hitching. She warns him that being with her will bring him nothing but trouble. But Yanchu just laughs, reminding her that as the head of Bi Xing Hall, he's a trouble magnet himself. They share a rare, genuine laugh, the tension finally breaking. He pulls her onto his lap, holding her close as she blushes furiously. Yanchu realizes he got a bit carried away and freezes, but he doesn't let go. He looks at her lips, the timing finally feeling perfect. He asks for permission, his voice low and husky. Can I kiss you? He whispers, and our girl can't help but smile. She gives him the green light, her eyes sparkling. They lean in, the distance between them vanishing. Their lips finally meet in a kiss that's been chapters in the making. It's a deep, passionate embrace that says everything they couldn't put into words. The heat between them is enough to melt the world away. Yanchu feels like he's kissing a morning flower, sweet and precious. He wishes this moment could last forever. Finally, he can call her his, and no matter what the future holds. Under the glow of the full moon, she's become his entire world. The sun is up and the birds are chirping, but our favorite couple is still lost in dreamland. Yanchu is the first to blink awake, catching a glimpse of his beautiful girl sleeping right next to him. Honestly, Shaoying looks like an absolute angel when she isn't caught up in all the drama. She finally stirs, clutching the blankets as she realizes she's not alone. Yanchu can't help himself and leans in for a sweet morning kiss on her forehead. He eventually hops out of bed, feeling more refreshed than he has in years. But the peaceful vibes are immediately ruined when he walks downstairs and finds a certain someone lounging on his sofa. Yanchu is physically shook. Like, excuse me, who gave you a key to the house? The friend is just there to remind him about their billiard plans, totally ignoring the fact that he's interrupting a honeymoon phase. Yanchu tries to brush him off, but Shaoying appears, looking totally adorable in her morning. Instead of hiding, she suggests they all go play together because our girl is a social butterfly like that. They head to the billiard room, which looks fancy enough to belong in a palace. The room is sparkling, ready for some high-stakes fun. Yanchu is ready for some alone time, but the third wheel is living his best life in the background. As they step inside, Yanchu grabs a pool cue, looking like a total pro. Shaoying admits she's a bit of a newbie, but she remembers her father figure teaching her the basics. Sensing a golden opportunity, Yanchu moves in to give her a lesson. His hands slide over hers, and suddenly the room feels a lot hotter. He guides her aim, keeping his face dangerously close to hers. Our girl is trying to focus on the game, but with him breathing down her neck, her heart is doing backflips. She finally takes the shot, the ball zooming across the table. It's a perfect thud right into the pocket. Shaoying is absolutely hyped, cheering for herself while Yanchu just watches her with heart eyes. Seeing her smile this brightly is literally all he ever wanted. He wishes he could keep her this happy forever. But duty calls, and as night falls, the vibe shifts from sweet to serious. They arrive at a high-end casino, and Shaoying is starting to get cold feet. She tries to bail and wait outside, but Yanchu isn't having it. He looks her dead in the eye and tells her she's staying right by his side. They walk through the doors like the ultimate power couple. Every head in the room turns, and the whispers start immediately. Everyone is wondering who this mystery woman is hanging onto the boss of Bi Xing Hall. Shaoying can feel the weight of their stares, and it's making her super uneasy. She has to put on her best poker face because showing weakness here is not an option. They finally reach the private room where a mysterious woman is waiting. Miss Liu greets them with a smirk that says she knows exactly how to play the game. She looks like total old money elegance. Yanchu keeps it cool, returning the greeting with his signature boss energy. They head inside to talk business. Yanchu introduces Shaoying and mentions her connection to Ji Yun Miao, trying to see if Miss Liu bites. Miss Liu plays it off perfectly, acting like she's just helping out a friend. She pours some tea, trying to keep the atmosphere light. But as they sit down, she starts prying into Bi Xing Hall's recent success. Yanchu's eyes turn icy the second she brings up the port work. He shuts her down instantly, telling her she's way out of line. The air in the room turns to lead as he reminds her to mind her own business. Miss Liu actually looks a little rattled for a second. She quickly backtracks, trying to distract him by complimenting the aroma of the tea. But Yanchu is 10 steps ahead. He recognizes the scent. It's the same tea he was served by the enemy family a few days ago. He realizes this tea isn't just a drink, it's a message. Miss Liu is sweating bullets now. Yanchu demands to know if he can actually trust her or if she's already sold him out. Miss Liu tries to stand her ground, claiming they are just business partners, not master and servant. Yanchu isn't buying the tough act. He warns her that the Jinpeng family will chew her up and spit her out the moment she's no longer useful. Miss Liu goes quiet, the fear finally showing in her eyes. That's when our girl Shaoying steps in with the killing blow, asking if Miss Liu has a daughter. Miss Liu's hand starts trembling immediately. Shaoying hits the nail on the head, guessing that someone is using her child to threaten her. Miss Liu breaks down, admitting her daughter is with her grandmother and she's been terrified. Yanchu and Shaoying exchange a look. Yanchu realizes just how deep the enemy's claws go. Miss Liu thought she was keeping her child safe, but she realized too late that she was just giving them leverage. Shaoying, being the sweetheart she is, tells her to bring the daughter here where they can actually protect her. Yanchu promises to assign guards to keep them both safe. Miss Liu looks like a massive weight has been lifted off her shoulders. Later that night, the two of them are finally alone again. Shaoying is leaning on Yanchu, exhausted from all the mental gymnastics. They talk about the Jinpeng family's savage tactics and how they prey on the weak. Yanchu is low-key obsessed with how smart his girl is, asking how she knew about the daughter. Shaoying explains that she just used her intuition and remembered a few key details. Yanchu gives her a playful pinch on the cheek, totally smitten. He explains that the tea was a silent cry for help, and Shaoying was the only one who truly heard it. He jokes that having her around is like having a wife and a genius advisor all in one. Shaoying just laughs it off as they disappear into the night, ready for whatever chaos comes next. Down at the docks, a shady transaction is going down under the cover of night. Our girl is crouched in the shadows, keeping a sharp eye on every moving crate. Her sidekick is yawning, wondering what's so special about a bunch of boxes. But through the telescope, the truth starts to unravel as the thugs whisper about their precious cargo. Our heroine can't help but roast her subordinate's lack of intuition while asking for an update on Shaoying. Apparently, Master Yan has her under constant surveillance, which is the only reason anyone is breathing easy right now. Our girl even promises to let the poor guy meet his idol if he survives the night. But the mood shifts instantly as she refocuses on the target. She watches with bated breath, seeing the men pry open the crates to reveal something that definitely isn't Darjeeling. One of the goons slices a sample open with a savage grin. Confirming her worst fears, this isn't tea, it's poison for the city. It's go time, and she signals her agent to move in. He takes a deep breath, fixing his hat for the performance of a lifetime. He leaps out with a shout, catching the thugs completely off guard. He manages to sneak right up to the lead enforcer, tipping his hat with a cheeky smile. The brute is confused, trying to figure out how this small fry got past his perimeter. Our guy plays it cool, claiming he was sent by Master Peng to pick up the goods early. The enforcer isn't buying it, noting that a woman was never part of the deal. Thinking fast, our agent spins a wild lie about her brother sending her ahead to scout the area. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as the goon stares her down. He decides to keep her close until the brother arrives, which is exactly what she wanted. Meanwhile, our girl is checking her watch, counting down the seconds to chaos. She snaps it shut and pulls out her piece with lethal intent. She steadies her aim from the rooftop. A single perfect shot rings out, shattering the windshield and sending everyone diving for cover. Bullets start flying everywhere as the enforcer screams in rage. He fires back blindly, cursing the reckless bastard who ruined his night. But when the smoke clears, the dock is a ghost town. His guest has vanished into thin air. He realizes too late that he's been played like a cheap fiddle. Back at the safe house, the moon hangs high as the girls regroup. They've secured a sample of the overseas opium, and the implications are catastrophic. This stuff is purer and deadlier than anything on the streets, and it could collapse the entire region. Master Yan's expression turns cold as she realizes the scale of the threat. Just then, Shaoying walks in, catching them mid-conspiracy. Yanchu panics, hoping the girl didn't hear the dangerous details of their mission. They explain that the Jinpeng family is trying to buy the casino to use as a massive drug warehouse. Shaoying doesn't just listen. She steps up with a savage plan to negotiate with the source herself. She knows exactly who is pulling the strings from the shadows. It's time to cut the head off the snake. Later at the club, the music is loud and the dancers are dazzling. The atmosphere is electric, but the real drama is happening on the balcony. Amidst the glitter and champagne, Yanchu and Shaoying prepare for their high-stakes meeting. Shaoying looks absolutely stunning, though she admits she's just trying to see the world through a different lens tonight. Yanchu reaches out, taking her hand in a rare moment of tenderness. She reminds her that no matter how the world sees her, she defines her own destiny. The romantic tension is cut short when Mr. Tan finally makes his entrance. The air in the room turns frigid. They put on their best smiles, welcoming the man who holds the keys to the city's trade. Shaoying plays her part perfectly, leaving the two business partners to discuss the gritty details. Yanchu drops the act immediately, revealing she's the one who requested this secret sit-down. Mr. Tan is amused, wondering why she went through the trouble of using a singer to lure him out. She tells him straight she has an offer he'd be a fool to refuse, and she didn't want the Jinpeng family catching wind of it. Tan sits, skeptical of the woman who famously hated the tobacco trade. He notes that her reputation precedes her. She simply smiles, noting that in this world people change as fast as the weather. As the wine is poured, she leans in, the predator finally showing her teeth. She offers him a deal that blows the Jinpeng family out of the water, telling him to name his price. She delivers one final warning: once you're on this ship, there's no getting off. Tan looks her in the eye, seeing the fire of a true boss. He knows he's making a deal with the devil. But money talks, and the deal is sealed with a drink. They clink glasses, signaling a shift in the city's power balance. Stepping outside, Yanchu lets out a long sigh of relief. The first part of the plan worked like a charm. Later, during a quiet game of billiards, they discuss the fallout. Tan and the Jinpeng family are likely already at each other's throats. If they keep the two factions divided, Bi Xing Hall will have the ultimate advantage. The image of their enemies bickering like children brings a smirk to her face. Shaoying lines up her shot with surgical precision. She cracks the balls across the table, mirroring the way they just shattered the enemy's alliance. She knows Tan is just a businessman who follows the scent of money. By offering him more, they've ensured he'll abandon his old allies in a heartbeat. And when the Jinpeng family finds out they've been betrayed, the resulting grudge will be legendary. Yanchu pulls Shaoying into a sudden grateful hug. They've survived another day in this chaotic world, and the show is only just beginning. But as the sun rises, the consequences start to land. Yu Jinpeng is back at his headquarters, slamming his cup down in a fit of pure rage. He realizes his merchandise is gone and his partner is ghosting him. He screams at his subordinates, vowing that everyone involved will pay in blood. Shaoying is mid-escape when the door swings open and the man she fears most walks right in. Our girl tries to play it cool, but her heart is doing gymnastics seeing the boss back so early. He's already puffing on a cigar, asking with a nasty smirk if she's been playing around while he was gone. He even jokes about her finding a rich patron to support her, and you can practically see the steam coming out of Shaoying's ears. She's sweating bullets because Yanchu is standing right there, and if these two worlds collide, it's going to be a total disaster. The boss turns on his greasy charm, introducing himself to Yanchu as the proprietor of Fairyland. But there's a chilling warning in his eyes when he tells Yanchu to take good care of his treasure. He claims she's like a daughter to him, but that dark aura says he only cares about the gold she brings in. Yanchu isn't falling for the act for a single second. She grabs our heroine and firmly tells her not to look back at that toxic place. They make a break for it, finally leaving the oppressive shadows of the club behind them. As they walk through the quiet streets, the autumn leaves falling around them feel like a fresh start. Yanchu reaches out, her hand hovering near Shaoying's in a moment of pure, tentative longing. Finally, their fingers intertwine, and for the first time in forever, our girl feels like she can actually breathe. But the trauma runs deep, and Shaoying starts spiraling, terrified that being near her will only bring Yanchu trouble. She confesses that she feels trapped by things she can't just walk away from. Our poor heroine admits she feels like she's crawling through mud, her whole soul covered in filth that can never be washed off. But Yanchu stops her right there, looking at her with such savage devotion it could melt ice. She tells her that she never wants to see her suffer and desperately wants to make her happy. Yanchu even apologizes for not being there when Shaoying was drowning in all that sorrow. It's a total swoon-worthy moment as she gently cups Shaoying's face, promising she doesn't have to carry the burden alone anymore. Shaoying looks at her and remembers the exact moment her life turned into a nightmare. We flash back to when she was just a 15-year-old girl forced onto a stage far too young. On her first night, the boss made her perform behind a thick curtain, and she had no idea why. She thought it was just part of the show until the music stopped and she decided to peek behind the veil. What she found was a disgusting honored guest waiting in the shadows just for her. The creep tried to touch her, but our girl has always been a fighter and she smashed a heavy glass ashtray right over his head. The man erupted in a rage, blood dripping down his face as he screamed that he was going to kill her. He lunged at her, and for a second, it looked like the end for our poor heroine. That's when the boss finally stepped in, but he didn't care about her safety. He just didn't want his prize singer getting damaged. He looked at her like she was a piece of trash that got a little dusty on the floor. Shaoying realized in that moment that she'd rather die than ever let a man look at her like that again. She told the boss she was done singing, but he just laughed, his voice cold and heartless. He admitted he only kept her because the offers to buy her weren't high enough to cover the cost of raising her. To him, she was just a long-term investment, a bird that would keep the money flowing as long as she stayed in the cage. It's the brutal moment our girl realized she was never a human being to him, just property. But instead of breaking, she wiped her tears and made a savage deal. She demanded a cut of the profits, figuring if she had to be a tool, she might as well get paid for it. She flashed a fake, bright smile that reached nowhere near her eyes, playing the part perfectly. But deep down, she made a vow to survive this and soar so high that she'd eventually crush the boss under her feet. Through the years, she sang until her voice became her weapon and her wings. Back in the present, she looks up at the moon with a new fire in her soul. She's finished being a victim, and with Yanchu by her side, she knows that one day soon, she will finally be free. Yanchu struggles to express the depth of her feelings, but she wants Shaoying to know that no matter what, she will always stand by her. She vows to protect her and support her to the best of her ability. Shaoying is moved, giving our girl a sweet little head pat. Yanchu feels a massive weight lift from her heart, finally sharing the feelings she's kept bottled up for so long. She looks at Shaoying, realizing her partner's heart is so much stronger and gentler than her own. She's just happy to have lived her life well enough to finally meet her. Without that luck, they never would have crossed paths. Our heroine smiles, a deep blush coloring her face. Suddenly, the wind picks up, turning the night air cold. Yanchu decides it's finally time to head home. Safely inside, Yanchu shakes off the chill. She walks into the room to find Shaoying already deep into her books. But Shaoying is so focused on her studies that she doesn't even look up. Yanchu feels a sudden, intense urge to just pull her into a hug. Her heart thumps as she watches her beautiful partner. She leans in, breaking the silence. Shaoying lets out a soft "oh my" as things start to get heated. Their kiss is more passionate than usual, a desperate fire ignited between them. Shaoying can barely catch her breath, her face flushed from the intensity. The room feels incredibly hot as the tension peaks. Yanchu whispers that if they don't stop now, she's going to lose all control. She pins Shaoying down, her hand firm as she claims her. They tumble onto the bed, lost in a whirlwind of gasps. Yanchu looks at her with a gaze that could melt steel. She whispers that she wants more. She asks for permission, her heart pounding in her chest. Shaoying pulls her closer, her fingers tangling in her hair. She tells her she can have as much as she wants. They melt into each other again, the night becoming a blur of passion. Hands roam freely, shifting clothes as they explore one another. Yanchu marvels at how soft and warm Shaoying feels, like sinking into a cloud. She wants to kiss every single inch of her. The intensity reaches its peak, leaving them both completely spent. It feels like drowning in a sea of pure, overwhelming emotion. Like clear water rushing over them, cleansing and refreshing. They are completely submerged in the feeling of each other. A literal splash of emotion as they finally find peace. Their fingers interlace, gripping tight as the night fades. Afterward, they lay there in the quiet afterglow. Yanchu holds Shaoying close, the intimacy between them deeper than ever. The morning light shifts, highlighting the peace they've found. Shaoying asks how she knew exactly what to do. Yanchu just smiles, admitting that when it comes to her, no one needed to teach her a thing. Meanwhile, the mood is much darker as the boss sits down with Mr. Tan. The boss knows Tan isn't there for a chat, he wants Shaoying. Tan doesn't deny it, admitting he's been interested in her for a while. Seeing a chance for a payday, the boss makes a disgusting proposal. He offers to arrange a marriage between the two of them immediately. Mr. Tan looks a bit nervous, sweating under the boss's gaze. A knock at the door interrupts them as Shaoying arrives. The boss calls her in, acting like everything is perfectly normal. Shaoying walks in, sensing the suffocating tension. She takes a seat, looking like a total queen even in this den of snakes. The boss asks her what she thinks of Mr. Tan. Before she can even answer, he declares that he's settling her marriage tonight. Shaoying is stunned, realizing the man she called father is just selling her off. She flashes back to all the times he used her for profit. He calls her his big star, but she knows she's just a product to him. A wave of savage realization hits her and she starts to laugh. It's a cold, hysterical laugh that echoes through the room. The boss and Mr. Tan stare at her like she's lost her mind. But Shaoying has never been more sane. She stands up and tells the boss she is officially done with him. He's absolutely floored, unable to believe she's defying him. She leans in with a terrifyingly calm smile. "I'm done with you," she repeats, her voice like ice. From now on, they are strangers and she is taking her life back. The boss's face turns a nasty shade of red as his greed turns to pure rage. He screams at her, but the spell is finally broken. Shaoying turns her back on him and storms out of the room. He bellows for her to come back, but she doesn't even flinch. He's losing his mind, screaming into the empty air. Shaoying runs through the halls, her shadow trailing behind her as she escapes her cage. She doesn't look back, her heels clicking against the floor in a frantic rhythm. She's out of breath, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and liberation. She pushes through the final doors, desperate to find the one person who actually cares. Her face is set in stone, she's never going back to that life. She spots Yanchu walking in the distance. Without a second thought, she leaps forward, throwing herself into Yanchu's arms. She clings to her, the tears finally starting to fall as the adrenaline fades. She tells Yanchu that despite the chaos, this is the happiest she's been in 10 years. Yanchu has given her the courage to finally stand up for herself. She occupies every corner of Shaoying's heart. Yanchu looks at her, completely surprised by the sudden outburst. Shaoying looks her in the eye and finally says those three magic words, "I love you." Yanchu's heart skips a beat, the moment feeling surreal. This is the first time Shaoying has ever been so clear about her feelings. Yanchu breaks into a soft smile, pulling her closer. "I love you too," she whispers back, sealing their bond. Back in the office, Mr. Tan wonders if they should go after her. But the boss just scowls, looking out the window with a sinister grin. He claims a bird caged all its life will never be able to fly. He thinks she'll come crawling back, but he has no idea how high she's already soared. Shaoying sits at her desk, wondering if Yanchu is still burying herself in work. She can't just sit still, so our girl decides it's time for a little wellness check. Walking through the quiet halls, she realizes the family pharmacy business is struggling as the world moves on without them. It's a heavy burden, and she knows they can't keep living in the past forever. Ever since Uncle Yan passed away, the weight of the world has been resting on their shoulders. She finds Bai Ma diligently cleaning and reminds the sweet woman that no one is above another just because of their station. Shaoying holds her hands, insisting that honest work deserves nothing but respect. Bai Ma gives a soft smile, touched by our heroine's kindness. But the conversation turns bittersweet as they reflect on how lonely the house has been since the master left. Bai Ma worries that even the most capable women can't hide their loneliness forever. Suddenly, the chaotic Yun Miao bursts in, bragging about how close she's been getting to a certain someone lately. She's out here winking and acting like the main character of her own romance. Shaoying immediately calls her out, asking if she's finally fallen in love. Yun Miao starts flailing wildly, her face turning beet red as she tries to deny the obvious. Our girl tells her to be careful, reminding her that her crush has a complicated past. The mood shifts when Yun Miao asks about the old apartment, making Shaoying visibly tense. She stammers, clearly hiding something behind that nervous gaze. She asks if any calls came for her, but the answer is a big fat zero. Yun Miao drops a truth bomb, asking if it's true she's never going back to her life at Fairyland. The silence is deafening as Shaoying looks away, the reality of her choice finally sinking in. She quickly brushes it off and pushes her friend to go find Yanchu instead. Alone on the stairs, the shadows feel longer than usual. She wonders if everyone else has a purpose while she's just drifting in the wind. Her hands tremble as she questions what her next move should even be. Later that night, Yanchu returns home to the sound of a familiar, haunting melody. The notes drift through the air like ghosts of a life left behind. Shaoying is transported back to the stage, remembering the roar of the crowd and the lights of Fairyland. Yanchu stands there mesmerized, realizing just how much she's sacrificed. Shaoying is lost in the music until she senses a presence behind her. She stops, the silence returning as their eyes meet in the dim light. Yanchu calls her a charming lady, his voice dripping with affection. He presents her with a single red rose, a small gesture for a massive heart. He explains he ditched his meeting early just to see her, because her singing is the only thing he wants to hear. But Shaoying is in her feelings, mourning the fact that she has no audience to sing for anymore. She admits she's a total mess of mixed emotions right now. Yanchu looks at her with nothing but warmth, promising to help her find her way again. He asks if she trusts him, and honestly, who wouldn't? She leans into him, finding a momentary peace in his arms. And because he's a total savage, he scoops her up for a good night's sleep, much to her blushing protest. The next day, they head out for a secret trip, and even the driver can't handle how cute these two are being. They arrive at a sun-drenched park, looking like the ultimate power couple. Yanchu is just happy to see her looking a bit more like herself. He grabs her hand, leading her toward a surprise picnic. He points out their friends waiting on the grass. They join the group, and Shaoying is immediately greeted by the most adorable little girl you've ever seen. The tiny Tang Tang stares at her with wide, curious eyes. She tells Shaoying she's really pretty, and our girl's heart basically melts on the spot. Yanchu jokingly asks if he's pretty too, but the kid is not convinced. Shaoying relaxes on the blanket, wondering if the stoic Yanchu is actually feeling a bit shy. He smiles down at her, and for a second they really do feel like a normal, happy couple. He wishes things could stay this peaceful forever, but drama is always lurking. A random fan approaches, asking if she's the famous singer from Fairyland. Shaoying confirms her identity, and the fan's face lights up. He tells her that he and his wife are her biggest fans. He even reveals he proposed during one of her songs, proving she was the soundtrack to people's lives. Shaoying is touched, but then he mentions he heard she was sick. Our girl is absolutely shook, realizing Yanchu told everyone she was ill just to cover up her disappearance. She stares blankly, wondering how long they can actually keep the truth hidden. She decides to be honest, telling the fan she isn't sick at all. But saying the words out loud feels like closing a door forever. As the kites soar above, the weight of her decision feels heavier than ever. She admits to Yanchu that she misses the stage and the audience more than she thought possible. He pulls her close, reminding her that it's okay to be sad and uncertain. He tells her to be patient with herself, just like she was with him. They sit together in the grass, two souls trying to navigate a world that's changing way too fast. Ji-Yun Miao is helping little Tang Tang fly a kite, and the joy on their faces is actually heartwarming. The butterfly kite catches the wind perfectly, soaring high above the field. Our girl Yu Miao is a natural with kids, cheering Tang Tang on as she runs through the grass. It's a rare moment of peace for everyone involved as the kite dances in the sky. As they watch the kite, our heroine mentions she used to take care of her little brother, which catches the boss's attention. But the mood shifts instantly when Yun Miao's expression turns cold and distant. She admits she has no intention of ever returning to her hometown. Her parents made it clear that their only priority was their son, leaving her behind. She's accepted that she's no longer part of that family, but the pain is still visible in her eyes. The boss, being a total queen, offers to be the one who finally hears her out. Yun Miao smiles, touched that someone actually gives a damn about her for once. We see the truth of her past. A family that treated her like an outsider just because she wasn't a boy. She was nothing more than a temporary guest waiting to be married off for a profit. But our girl had other plans, dropping the ultimate bombshell by telling them she likes women. Her father's reaction is predictably savage and disgusting, immediately resorting to insults. He screams that marriage is a serious matter while the mother just sits there clutching her precious son. The favoritism is sickening as the mother completely ignores her daughter's suffering. The father towers over her with a broom, calling her a disgrace and an embarrassment. He mocks her identity, refusing to believe a daughter could ever say no to him. Yun Miao stands her ground, even as he treats her like a common criminal. He threatens her one last time, demanding she obey the matchmaker or lose her family. He's determined to sell her off whether she likes it or not. But when he tells her she's no longer his daughter, he expects her to beg. Instead, our girl gives him a look of absolute savage contempt. She curses the marriage, the matchmakers, and the entire toxic bloodline. With a final middle finger to her old life, she sprints out of the house into the unknown. Her father chases her like a madman, but he's too late. She wandered for 2 years alone, eventually finding her way back to the only place she felt safe. She tells the boss exactly what she said that day, not hiding her truth anymore. She holds back the rest, worried that the full story might be too much for her employer to handle. But the boss isn't shocked by the truth. She's shocked by how much women lose in the traditional marriage trap. She looks at Yun Miao with a new level of respect. She praises Yun Miao's courage, knowing all too well how the world tries to crush women like them. The boss remembers her own past, being dragged into a life of misery by a man who didn't deserve her. She agrees wholeheartedly that marriage is a loss for women. Yun Miao's heart starts doing backflips as she remembers all the times the boss has saved her. She tries to play it cool, telling herself this is strictly a professional relationship. She tries to convince herself that she's just the boss, but her eyes say otherwise. The boss gives her a look that could melt ice, offering her a permanent place by her side. Yun Miao nearly jumps out of her skin, her feelings becoming impossible to ignore. The boss tells her that if she doesn't want to go back, she never has to. She promises that here, Yun Miao will finally be appreciated for who she is. The next day, the persistent Mr. Tan is waiting at a cafe, looking incredibly nervous. He's checking his watch every 5 seconds, wondering if she'll even show up. Shaoying finally arrives, looking like a total boss as she meets his gaze. She greets him with the coldness of a blizzard. He's clearly relieved she came, but the tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. He tries to be a gentleman, pouring her tea and making small talk about the weather. But our girl is here for business, demanding to know what's so important that it couldn't wait. She's tired of the games and the running. She just wants to settle this once and for all. Mr. Tan takes a deep breath, trying to find the right words. He starts with a formal apology for his behavior during their last meeting. He tries to throw his boss under the bus, claiming he was just following orders. Shaoying remains completely unimpressed by his excuses. She scoffs, knowing exactly what kind of man he is. She didn't think a man of his status would ever lower himself to apologize to a woman. He admits his previous proposal was arrogant and that he's been regretting it ever since. He remembers the sting of her slap, which clearly left a mark on his ego. She tells him to stop wasting her time and get to the point. He's sweating bullets now, his hands trembling. He reveals there's a second, much deeper reason for this meeting. He needs to ask her a question that's been haunting him. He swallows hard, struggling to get the words out. Finally, he looks her in the eye and asks the one thing she never expected. He wants to know her mother's name, and the question hits Shaoying like a physical blow. She's confused and suspicious. Why would he care about her past? Suddenly, a traumatic memory resurfaces. Her mother, a woman who never once looked her in the eyes with love. Little Shaoying would beg for attention, crying out for a mama who wasn't there. Her mother's face was always filled with a mixture of disgust and resentment. She would shove the poor girl away, leaving her crying on the floor. Shaoying remembers the physical pain of the fall, but the emotional wound was much deeper. She just wanted to be seen, to be loved by the woman who brought her into the world. But her mother remained an ice queen, distant and unreachable. In her memory, the silence of her mother is deafening. Back in the present, Shaoying's eyes are full of fire. Mr. Tan asks if her mother's name was Rayuan, and her silence is all the confirmation he needs. She's horrified. How could this man know a name she's tried so hard to forget? He tells her that even if he forgot his own name, he could never forget hers. Ryuan was his childhood sweetheart, the only woman he ever truly loved. He admits that the first time he saw Shaoying, he thought he was seeing a ghost. He says they could have been twins, and the realization makes Shaoying's blood boil. She laughs in his face, calling his love a complete joke. If he loved her so much, how could he watch her marry a degenerate gambler? He's left speechless as she tears into him for his cowardice. We see a glimpse of Ryuan's past, a life that could have been happy if things were different. But Shaoying isn't interested in his what-ifs. She tells him she'd rather have never been born than see her mother live in such misery. She accuses him of choosing his family's fortune over the woman he claimed to love. She realizes he never cared about her, he was just chasing the shadow of a dead woman. She calls him out for his disgusting selfishness, waiting until now to tell her the truth just to win her affection. She stands up, done with his pathetic tears and his excuses. He can only hang his head as the weight of his sins finally crashes down on him. She delivers the final, savage truth: the only person he ever loved was himself. Mr. Tan collapses into his hands, sobbing like a child. He cries out Ryuan's name, but it's 20 years too late for an apology. Yanchu arrives late for the meeting, casually dropping that she was just grabbing lunch with Ji Yun Miao. But the room is thick with tension when she realizes Shaoying isn't there. The news that Shaoying went back to her old place to pack has our girl looking seriously stressed. Her companion notices the worry lines and suggests she go find her, but Yanchu tries to play it cool. She decides to stay put and wait, but you can tell her mind is racing with what-ifs. Finally, Shaoying walks through the door and Yanchu practically teleports to her side with offers of hot cake. Our girl grabs the suitcase like it's the most precious cargo in the world, eager to get her settled. There's a nagging feeling that something doesn't add up about Shaoying's whereabouts, but Yanchu forces herself to ignore the red flags for now. They finally sit down, and Shaoying insists that being with her is the only priority that matters. The domestic vibes are peaking when Bai Ma brings in a stack of fresh, steaming layer cake. It's a rare moment of peace, but Yanchu can't help but hover like a protective mama bear. As Shaoying eats, Yanchu watches her with a gaze that is absolutely dripping with unspoken questions. She gently probes, asking if there's anything else Shaoying might be keeping hidden. Inside Shaoying's head, it's absolute chaos as she remembers the trauma of her family and the gambler who ruined her mother's life. The weight of her past is a heavy shadow, showing a lonely little girl who never felt safe. She desperately wants to come clean, but the fear of how Yanchu will react is paralyzing. With a painful swallow, our poor heroine decides to keep the truth locked away for just a little longer. She puts on a brave face and lies through her teeth, claiming there are no more secrets between them. Yanchu, blissfully unaware, starts blaming herself for being too busy and neglecting her. The guilt on Shaoying's face is so real it's actually hurting my soul. She's right on the edge of confessing when the door is slammed open by a frantic subordinate. Duty calls in the most dramatic way possible, and the peaceful atmosphere is instantly shattered. Yanchu's boss mode is activated in a split second, her eyes turning sharp and cold. She's ready to storm out and handle business, but Shaoying stops her before she can leave. Our heroine isn't letting her go out into the cold without her coat, showing her own brand of quiet care. Yanchu feels terrible for bailing on their day, but Shaoying tells her to go save the world like the savage she is. That look of pure adoration in Yanchu's eyes, yeah, she's absolutely. With a final promise to be back soon, Yanchu rushes off into the night. While she's away, Shaoying tries to distract herself with calligraphy, writing patience over and over like a mantra. But the ticking of the clock is loud, and every second feels like an eternity. The hours crawl by and the house feels far too empty without Yanchu's presence. She tries to get lost in a book, but her eyes keep drifting back to the door. Midnight passes and the silence is starting to become deafening. She's practically vibrating with anxiety, wondering what kind of danger her partner is facing. Finally, the sound of heavy footsteps echoes in the hallway. The door creaks open and the relief is almost tangible. Yanchu finds Shaoying curled up on the sofa, having finally succumbed to exhaustion. Shaoying jolts awake, her first instinct being to check if Yanchu is okay. They lock eyes and the sheer exhaustion of their lifestyle hits them both at once. Yanchu asks why she didn't just go to bed, clearly moved by the fact that she waited. But Shaoying is busy scanning her for injuries, her heart still hammering in her chest. She's haunted by the memory of the last time Yanchu came home covered in blood. The trauma is real, and Shaoying realizes she can't keep living like this. She pours her heart out, admitting that she hasn't known a moment of peace since they met. Our girl has reached her breaking point, and she's ready to make a major life change. She drops a total bombshell. She wants Yanchu to teach her martial arts. She's not just talking basic self-defense either. She wants to master every weapon in the arsenal. Yanchu is caught off guard, but Shaoying starts throwing adorable little haya punches to prove she's serious. The reason behind it is enough to make anyone swoon. She wants to be the one doing the protecting. She's tired of being the damsel and wants to stand side by side with her woman. Yanchu's heart is officially melted. She never expected this kind of devotion. She reaches out, her touch more tender than we've ever seen it. She admits she was terrified that all the danger would eventually drive Shaoying away. But instead, our heroine is leaning in, choosing to dive even deeper into Yanchu's chaotic world. The answer is a resounding yes. She's going to turn our girl into a certified warrior. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife as they drift closer, and then they finally share a kiss that is as soft as it is life-changing. Under the silent moon, Yanchu whispers a final thank you for a love that's willing to fight. Our girl Shaoying leans in to wake her beautiful teacher with a soft morning smile. But before she can even blink, the tables are turned in the most chaotic way possible. She barely gets out the words to wake her up, when Yanchu's eyes snap open, glowing with a playful mischief that spells absolute trouble. Suddenly, there's a blur of movement, and our poor heroine finds herself pinned to the bed, heart hammering against her ribs. Yanchu leans in dangerously close, whispering that next time the lights are off, maybe she should try calling her teacher again. Shaoying is left completely short-circuited, wondering what on earth that's supposed to mean as her face turns a bright shade of red. Suddenly, we're swept into a scene straight out of Shaoying's wildest fantasies, where she walks into a dimly lit room. She finds Yanchu looking like a total boss in a sharp vest, exuding pure dominance. The command to take a seat is simple, but our girl is dressed to kill in a stunning, ruffled crimson gown. When she nervously asks where she's supposed to sit, Yanchu doesn't point to a chair, she just reaches out and pulls her close. Shaoying ends up right on her lap, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. Every touch is electric, and Yanchu demands to know exactly how she should be addressed. As the lesson begins, the intense gaze between them is enough to make anyone swoon. Yanchu softly orders a kiss, and our heroine is more than happy to oblige as they sink into a passionate embrace. The world disappears as things get heated and their breath hitches, leaving Shaoying breathless and trembling. The intimacy reaches a fever pitch as they lose themselves in each other. Yanchu lifts her up effortlessly, looming over her with a smoldering look. She whispers for Shaoying to admit how much she truly wants this. With a racing heart, Shaoying finally gives in, calling her teacher and admitting her deepest desires. They share a tender, desperate moment. As the "I want it" finally leaves her lips, a hand slides up her leg in a move that's absolutely savage, and Shaoying is lost in the heat of the moment. The sounds of their passion fill the air, until bam, she wakes up screaming in bed, realizing it was all a very, very vivid dream. Yanchu is standing there completely unfazed, laughing at her for having stars in her eyes while she sleeps. To hide her massive blush, our girl bolts to the washroom while getting teased relentlessly. Time for a change of pace as we head to the training grounds. Yanchu is ready to get down to business, looking cool and collected in her martial arts. Shaoying tries to look tough, but she's clearly out of her element in her new uniform. The teacher's first lesson, punch me and don't hold back. Shaoying hesitates, clenching her fists, and begs her not to laugh if she looks ridiculous. Yanchu just smirks, goading her to give it her all and show some spirit. Our girl throws a punch with a sharp swish, but Yanchu dodges it like it's absolutely nothing. Shaoying thinks back to all the times she felt powerless, and something inside her finally snaps. Her eyes sharpen with a new kind of fire. She shifts her technique midair, surprising even herself. But Yanchu is still one step ahead, catching her fist with ease. Instead of a lecture, she gets a compliment. Yanchu calls her fierce. Shaoying is absolutely glowing. Being called fierce is way better than being called gentle or weak. Now it's Yanchu's turn to show her how it's really done. She gives a formal salute and begins a demonstration that is nothing short of legendary. Her movements are a blur of speed and power, her fists cutting through the air with a deadly grace. It's a mesmerizing display that leaves Shaoying completely starstruck. As Yanchu finishes her routine and catches her breath, our girl is left clapping like a total fangirl, more determined than ever to master the art of the fight. Shaoying is lost in dreams of her mother, seeing a side of her that's warm and kind instead of the hollow shell she remembers. But reality hits hard when she wakes up and finds a gun sitting on the desk. She picks it up, realizing that despite 4 days of training, she's still a total novice with weapons. This triggers memories of a past she'd rather forget, involving a man who claimed she looked exactly like his childhood sweetheart. He'd loved that woman more than anything, making our girl feel like nothing more than a ghost of a replacement. Shaoying brushes off the headache, still unable to find the right moment to come clean to Yanchu. She knows telling her would cause a total meltdown, so she decides to just go find her instead. Yanchu is buried in her work as usual, the sound of her pen scratching against paper filling the room. Our girl peeks in, noticing how busy her partner is even as she tries to approach. She asks if they have time for training today, but Yanchu is completely swamped. She barely looks up from her notes, giving Shaoying the cold shoulder of productivity. Yanchu apologizes, explaining that her schedule is packed for the next few days. She suggests Shaoying practice her punching and dodging alone, which is basically code for "I'm too busy for you right now." Shaoying insists on talking, finally opening up about the strange, happy dreams she's been having about her mother. It's the first time she's seen her mom smile and it's throwing her for a loop. Yanchu finally pauses to take her hand, offering a moment of rare tenderness. She tries to soothe her, saying that missing someone often turns daytime thoughts into nighttime dreams. Shaoying admits she feels like she never truly understood her mother at all. Yanchu reminds her that parents are people too, with secret lives and memories their children can never reach. They share a heavy hug, but Shaoying's heart is still weighed down by the secrets she's keeping about Tan Hengsheng. To distract herself from the guilt, she announces she's going to look for a job. Yanchu's eyes widen in shock, her mind immediately jumping to the worst-case scenario. She tries to talk her out of it, warning her that the working world is cruel and full of bullies. Shaoying isn't having it and pushes her back, declaring she's not some fragile rich girl who needs to be pampered. Yanchu realizes she stepped in it, her face falling as she realizes she's offended her girl. Internally, Yanchu is spiraling, wondering why all her efforts to protect Shaoying still aren't enough. Before they can resolve the tension, a man bursts in, completely killing the vibe. Shaoying takes the opportunity to make a dramatic exit, slamming the door behind her. The newcomer asks if they've had a lover's spat, and Yanchu admits she said something she shouldn't have. He tells her to stop moping and go after her, but Yanchu is too stubborn. She grips her pen until her knuckles turn white, deciding to let Shaoying cool off while she finishes her work. Out on the streets, Shaoying is determined to prove she can handle the real world. She stops at a local noodle shop, hoping for a fresh start. The owner is looking for a server, and our girl thinks she's finally caught a break. She's ready to handle anything, but the owner is skeptical. He takes one look at her soft, manicured hands and rejects her on the spot, saying she's clearly not built for manual labor. To make matters worse, he tells her to just go get married and live a carefree life like a good little lady. Shaoying looks absolutely crushed, the reality of her situation sinking in. She trudges away, feeling the sting of failure with every step. She's baffled that the owner didn't even recognize her from her time at Fairyland. It's a strange, lonely feeling to realize how quickly the world moves on without you. She decides to head back, her job-hunting mission a total disaster. Back at the house, the clock ticks away the hours of awkward silence. Yanchu is still pretending to read the news, but her mind is clearly elsewhere. When the door finally opens, Yanchu perks up immediately. She catches a glimpse of Shaoying returning and tries to act casual. Shaoying walks in, looking exhausted, while Yanchu hides behind her newspaper like a child. Our girl finally breaks the silence, admitting she went out looking for work. She sits down and confesses that the noodle shop owner turned her down and told her to settle down instead. Yanchu gets defensive on her behalf, snapping that the man should mind his own business. Seeing an opening, Yanchu offers her a position at Bi Xing Hall where there's plenty of work. She even suggests that Shaoying could be her public partner, which is a massive step for their relationship. Shaoying is stunned, her eyes wide as she processes the offer. But she quickly shuts it down, reminding Yanchu that their relationship absolutely cannot be public yet. Yanchu's face falls as she asks if Shaoying has lost faith in her. Shaoying clarifies that it's the world she doesn't trust, but she refuses to sit around and daydream. Yanchu grabs her hands, desperate to understand why she's in such a rush to leave the safety of their home. Shaoying points out that Yanchu is always busy, leaving them with barely a word to say to each other most days. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Yanchu snaps, shouting that she just wants the person she loves by her side. Shaoying is left speechless by the raw outburst of emotion. She tells Yanchu they both need time to calm down and walks away. Yanchu is left alone with her dark thoughts, wondering if Shaoying is hiding something again. As she watches her girl walk up the stairs, the shadows in the room seem to grow longer. She sits in the dim light, consumed by the terrifying thought that Shaoying might eventually leave her for good. Raising a glass, the Bi Xing Hall celebrates its newest acquisition, but the mood is anything but festive. Our girl sits there looking like a boss in her suit while the snakes around her start hissing. Old man Wu Wenbiao gets a bit too comfortable, calling her the little hall master after a few too many drinks. The conversation takes a dark turn when someone suggests opening an opium den because it's more profitable than a pharmacy. Our heroine's gaze turns icy as she prepares to lay down the law. Bi Xing Hall isn't going to destroy lives for a quick buck, and she makes that crystal clear. But Liang Qi isn't having it, pointing a finger and demanding some respect for his greed. He decides to get personal, bringing up her extravagant support for a certain singer. That's the final straw as someone slams the table, ready to brawl. Liang Qi stands up, basically signing his own death warrant with his arrogance. He's absolutely fuming, but he's about to make a massive mistake. He slams the table again, asking if anyone has the guts to teach him a lesson. Then he drops the ultimate bomb, claiming everyone will soon know the hall master's secret. He screams it for the whole room to hear. She's having an affair with another one. The room goes cold as he calls her love absurd and disgusting. Our girl doesn't even flinch, telling him to get out before he loses what's left of his mind. He storms out in a huff, thinking he's won, but he makes the mistake of stopping at the door for one last parting shot. Yanchu gives him a look that would freeze hell over, promising to pull out his teeth one by one if he keeps lying. and you know she means every word of it. The rest of the table tries to go back to their drinks, but the vibe is officially ruined. Her loyal shadow knows she's been tracking everyone's loyalty from the start. She's playing chess while these fools are playing checkers. They try to drink the tension away, but the damage is done. Later that night, the moon hangs high over the mansion as our girl heads to the bedroom. She sneaks in, finding Shaoying fast asleep, or so she thinks. She quietly kicks off her shoes, trying not to disturb the peace. Seeing Shaoying's face makes all the stress of the day melt away. The weight on her chest has been suffocating since they stopped talking 3 days ago. She whispers her apologies, terrified that her selfishness will drive her love away. But surprise, Shaoying opens her eyes, revealing she's been awake this whole time. Yanchu feels like a kid caught in the cookie jar. Shaoying sits up and the heavy atmosphere finally starts to crack. She looks at our girl with those big, soulful eyes. And the first thing she does is nag her about sleeping in a tie. But then the mood shifts as Shaoying remembers the drama from earlier. She asks the one question Yanchu was dreading: who did she go to see that day? Our girl realizes she can't hide behind her pride anymore. She takes a deep breath and finally comes clean. The man she met was Tan Hengsheng. He claims he was her mother's childhood sweetheart. But Yanchu remembers that man and he is nothing but trouble. She saw the hunger in his eyes and knew he wanted Shaoying for himself. She was reckless because she was terrified of losing her. Shaoying looks completely blindsided by the revelation. Yanchu demands to know why it was a secret in the first place. Shaoying explains she was just trying to get intel on their enemies. But Yanchu's jealousy is a savage beast, and she accuses her of just wanting to go back to her old life. Things are spiraling fast as Yanchu clutches her head in frustration. She hates that society gives men like Tan a free pass while she has to fight for everything. She's fighting a war on 2 fronts, against her enemies and against the world's rules. Shaoying tells her she feels like a complete stranger now. Yanchu turns to leave, the pain finally becoming too much to handle. She stops at the door, asking the most heartbreaking question of all. And then smack. Shaoying lets the tears fall, her heart shattered into a million pieces. She calls Yanchu a bastard for doubting her love like that. Yanchu takes the hit, a red mark blooming on her cheek as she stares in silence. But instead of staying to fix it, she turns her back and walks away. She leaves without a single word of comfort. Every step echoes through the silent room. Shaoying is left alone in the dark, clutching herself as she sobs. The door shuts tight, leaving their future hanging by a thread. Miss Weng is finally packing her bags and heading out, looking like she's absolutely done with all the mansion drama. But she doesn't get far before Bai Ma comes sprinting after her, begging to know what's going on. Our girl isn't wavering though. She's headed back to her old place and thanks the servant for taking such good care of her. Bai Ma tries one last emotional plea, mentioning that even if things are messy, the young lady truly cares about her. It leads to a bittersweet hug that honestly has me a little misty-eyed for our poor heroine. Bai Ma even promises her a 1,000-layer cake if she ever decides to drop by for a visit in the future. Upstairs, Yanchu is watching the whole departure from the window, looking absolutely miserable and full of regret. She's stuck in a mental loop, replaying every sweet memory they ever shared in this house. From the family gatherings where they felt like a real team, to the quiet, intimate moments where they promised to stay by each other's side. She remembers the I love yous and the warmth of a hug that she's now completely thrown away. She's hiding like a coward in the shadows, wondering if her departure was her fault while feeling a crushing weight of guilt. She's literally crumbling on the floor in the dark, calling herself a bad girl for hitting the woman she loves. But as she sobs into her arms, a familiar, warm voice suddenly calls out her name. She looks up through her tears and sees her father sitting right there, looking as healthy as the day he left. Is it a dream or a ghostly visitation? Either way, he's here to tell her how proud he is of how she's managed the haul. He doesn't even care that she's in love with a woman, telling her that in the end, nothing else matters besides living a happy life. Yanchu breaks down, sobbing that she's already ruined the relationship with her cruel words and her temper. She grips her chest in total agony, admitting how much she hates that they can't just be open about their love to the world. In her heart, she wishes she was born a man just so they could have a traditional marriage and grow old together without the shame. But her father gently reminds her that marriage isn't the only path to a happy life, and that she has the power to build her own future. And just like that, the vision fades, leaving her alone on the floor as the morning sun hits the carpet. Downstairs, the servant knocks on the door for breakfast, but Yanchu is still zonked out on the floor from her emotional breakdown. She wakes up groggy, realizing it was all a dream, but her father's words are still ringing in her ears. Meanwhile, the creepy little hall master is finishing up a shady phone call, ordering his men to stop monitoring Miss Weng. He's looking out the window, singing a dramatic tune while waiting for his favorite bird to return to the cage. And right on cue, Miss Weng shows up at his doorstep with her suitcase, looking totally defeated. He tries to act all fatherly and sweet, calling her Ying Ying and acting like he's just a concerned parent. Our girl is not amused at all and tries to walk right past this bald-headed snake without a word. He starts lecturing her about how dangerous it is to go it alone and how she'll fall without his guidance. She calls him out instantly, knowing she's nothing but a tool for his success and a way to line his pockets. But this man is a master manipulator, turning on the waterworks and claiming he's always viewed her as his own daughter. He plays the "I was only harsh because I wanted you to succeed" card, and it's honestly making my skin crawl. He begs her to just visit the stage one more time for the fans, knowing exactly which heartstrings to pull. And as she stands there in silence, he smirks internally, knowing his psychological warfare is working perfectly. He knows her heart is too gentle for her own good and that she'll easily forgive him, no matter how much pain he's caused her in the past. Yunmiao enters the room, but Shaoying is buried under the blankets, refusing to face the world. She insists she's totally awake, even though she looks like a cozy burrito of sadness. Our girl Yunmiao isn't having it and suggests a walk to clear the heavy air. Shaoying finally gives in with a tiny nod and they head out to catch some sun. It's a perfect day for everyone else with kites dancing in the sky. But for our poor heroine, the world still feels a little gray as they sit on the grass. Yunmiao goes into full hype woman mode, telling her she's too young and gorgeous to waste away. She promises that masters will be lining up for her, but Shaoying thinks that sounds more like a nightmare than a dream. She can't help but flash back to the cutting words Yanchu threw at her. The memory still stings like a fresh wound. She lets out a heavy sigh, trying to breathe through the heartache. Shaoying finally decides to be vulnerable and shares what's really eating at her. It's not just the sadness that's crushing her, but a paralyzing fear of getting hurt again. She admits that being around people who treated her poorly was almost easier because at least she knew what to expect. Yunmiao is absolutely floored by that logic, but Shaoying is thinking about the moments Yanchu was actually kind. She remembers the warm milk and the way Yanchu looked after her. Those smooth words and gentle gestures made her fall way harder than she intended. And those intimate moments they shared, yeah, they're burned into her brain. But then Shaoying drops a bombshell. She's going back to Fairyland to sing on stage again. Yunmiao is stunned, but Shaoying's eyes are full of a new, fierce determination. She realizes she doesn't just miss the stage, she misses being her own person. She thinks back to the glamour and the power she felt under the spotlight. Singing wasn't just for a man, it was her lifeblood. She loves the roar of the crowd and the way the music makes her feel alive. This choice is for her and her alone, and honestly, we stand a self-actualized queen. Yunmiao is so proud of how much her friend has grown through the chaos. Shaoying still worries that Yanchu won't accept her decision, but she's sticking to her guns. Her mind is made up. She's choosing herself this time. Meanwhile, the drama shifts over to Yanchu, who is looking absolutely wrecked. She's desperate to find Shaoying, but she's so sick she can barely stand. One giant sneeze later, and her friend is forcing her to stay put and rest. She's stuck in bed, wallowing in guilt and wishing she could take back everything she said. But our girl is stubborn and refuses to let a little fever stop her. She has to tell Shaoying the truth even if she has to crawl there. She pretends to sip her tea and play nice for a moment. Her friend thinks she's finally listening, blaming the illness on her broken heart and lack of sleep. He's convinced she's down for the count. She promises to sleep, acting like the perfect, obedient patient. He leaves her to rest, thinking he's finally won this battle. But as soon as his footsteps fade down the hall, Yanchu's eyes snap open, the game is on. She's not staying in this bed for another second. While her friend thinks she's sleeping like a log, she's already plotting her escape. Suddenly, there's a massive crash as she makes a break for it through the window. She's running through the streets, her body screaming in protest, but her heart won't let her stop. She realizes how much of a mess she made by bringing her work stress home. She sprints toward Fairyland, desperate to find the girl she pushed away. She rings the bell frantically, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She's barely holding it together as she waits for the door to open. She's coughing up a storm, looking like death warmed over, asking where Shaoying is. The staff tells her she isn't there, sparking a fresh wave of panic. Suddenly, someone taps her on the shoulder. It's Yunmiao, looking smug as ever in her dapper suit. She teases Yanchu for being so obsessed that she can't go a day without seeing her friend. Yanchu lunges forward, getting right in her face with zero chill. She demands to know the location of her girl right now. Yunmiao finally relents, telling her that Shaoying is just resting at home. Yanchu doesn't even say thanks before she's bolting out the door again. The onlookers can only laugh at the chaotic energy of young love. It's dramatic, it's messy, and it's exactly what we're here for. Yanchu is on her final leg, sprinting toward Shaoying's house. Meanwhile, Shaoying is just settling in, hanging up her coat and finally relaxing. But then the doorbell rings, shattering the silence. She figures Yunmiao just forgot her keys again and goes to open it. But instead of her friend, she finds a soaking wet, panting Yanchu. Shaoying is absolutely speechless at the sight of her. She can't believe Yanchu actually showed up in this state. Before she can say a word, Yanchu pulls her into a crushing, desperate hug. She whispers how much she missed her and that she has so much to say. But the poor thing is burning up with fever and collapses right onto Shaoying's shoulder. Looks like our girl is going to have to play nurse for her chaotic ex. Our girl finally opens her eyes, but her head is absolutely throbbing. She realizes with a jolt that she's actually in Shaoying's bed. The embarrassment is real as she wonders how on earth she ended up fainting. Just then, Shaoying walks in with a steaming bowl of medicine. The air is thick with awkwardness as she approaches. Yanchu takes the bowl, nervously asking how she even got into the bed. Shaoying reveals she's been working out just to be strong enough to carry our poor heroine. Yanchu can't help but stare, touched by the effort. Shaoying gently scolds her, noting how she always forgets to eat when she's busy. Suddenly, Yanchu's inner cat ears practically pop out. She's devastated that she missed out on a piggyback ride because she was unconscious. She starts chugging the medicine to hide her excitement, but it is beyond bitter. Shaoying can't help but laugh, teasing her for acting like a literal child. Determined to prove her wrong, Yanchu gulps the whole thing down in one go. She shows off the empty bowl like a proud puppy waiting for a head pat. Later, she catches Shaoying on the phone telling someone she's feeling better. Shaoying explains that it was Ahi calling and he's coming to pick her up soon. Our girl's heart sinks, thinking Shaoying is just trying to get rid of her. She walks away with her tail between her legs. Little does she know, Shaoying is having a massive internal battle. Her inner devil reminds her of all the past humiliations. But the angel points out how sincere Yanchu was to come here while sick. Shaoying shakes off the doubt, realizing she can't let this girl go. Just as Yanchu is about to leave, Shaoying reaches out. Her heart is thumping out of her chest. She grabs Yanchu's hand, refusing to let her slip away. She pulls her into a desperate back hug, apologizing for everything. Shaoying admits her possessiveness came from a place of self-doubt. She begs for forgiveness, looking completely vulnerable. Our girl is stunned but quickly melts, accepting the apology with a soft look. Yanchu finally feels at peace, knowing they're on the same page. But she knows she can't keep her own secrets anymore. They sit down for a serious heart-to-heart. Over tea, the tension is palpable. Shaoying asks if she's really going back to Fairyland. Our heroine confirms it, but she can see the worry in Yanchu's eyes. She explains that she misses the stage and needs the money Ruiping owes her. Yanchu holds her hand, validating her hard work. Still, Yanchu is terrified that Ruiping will find a way to control her. Shaoying explains that no other club in the city can compete with Fairyland. She remembers how cold she was during their last fight. It's a moment of mutual growth as they realize how much they've changed. Yanchu asks if the villains already know about their secret romance. Shaoying grabs her hands, her gaze turning intense. She appreciates that Yanchu never tried to hold her back from her dangerous work. Our girl looks on, mesmerized. Shaoying's tone shifts, becoming dangerously flirtatious as she asks if Yanchu would rather be under her control instead. Before Yanchu can even process that, Shaoying grabs her. With a sudden shove, things escalate quickly. Shaoying pins her down to the couch, the atmosphere turning electric. She reminds her that she's still sick, but her eyes say something else entirely. Yanchu's heart is doing backflips. The way Shaoying is looking at her right now is completely savage and full of desire. She pulls our girl in close and the tension finally snaps. They share a chaotic, passionate kiss that's been building up for ages. Their hands are locked tight as they lose themselves in the moment. Shaoying whispers for her to just lock the door and stay right here. Our girl is relaxing when a late-night knock startles her. She checks the time and wonders who on earth could be visiting at this hour. Outside, Yunmiao is sweating bullets, trying to come up with a halfway decent excuse to spend the night. She remembers her friends teasing her, which only makes her more desperate. She runs through a list of excuses in her head. She even imagines a super dramatic, intimate confession right there in the hallway. But when the boss actually opens the door, our poor heroine is a blushing mess. The boss, being the classy lady she is, invites her inside to talk. Yumiao stammers out a weak excuse about her living situation being awkward. The boss just smirks, teasing her for being a young girl with zero experience in the romance department. That comment sends Yun Miao's imagination into overdrive, recalling just how close they've been before. The boss pours some wine and mentions the house is empty for once. Looking at her, Yun Miao can't help but think the boss is even more stunning without all that makeup. She chugs her wine to keep her heart from leaping out of her chest. The boss smiles, calling her favorite underling while offering the good stuff. Then she circles back, asking about Yun Miao's supposed love experience. Yun Miao goes quiet, the bravado completely vanishing. She finally admits there was someone she liked a long time ago. It was a crush that never went anywhere. The boss asks what kind of boy could possibly catch her eye. Yumiao freezes, wondering if she should risk it all and admit she's into girls. She quickly changes the subject, asking the boss about her own past. The boss's expression softens as she mentions her late husband. She confesses that she actually spent her marriage doing everything she could to avoid him. Yunmiao listens intently, feeling the weight of those words. The boss gives a bittersweet smile. Suddenly, she leans in dangerously close. She whispers that Yunmiao is just trying to dodge the question about her own love life. The tension is absolutely savage as they lock eyes. Then the boss leans in and literally sniffs her, sending Yunmiao into a total panic. She tells her she smells incredible and our girl is officially fighting for her life. Yunmiao's brain has completely short-circuited from the proximity. The boss pulls back, promising not to force her into any more uncomfortable talks. A heavy silence falls over the room. The boss sighs, saying that whoever Yunmiao ends up with will be a lucky person. Yunmiao can't help but ask, what if that person is someone she isn't supposed to love? The boss just looks at her with those knowing eyes. Yunmiao's gaze lingers on her, the longing becoming impossible to hide. She promises to tell that person how she feels one day if she gets the chance. They share a toast, and Yunmiao decides to let her feelings ferment like fine wine. As she goes to pour another glass, the boss watches her move. The boss realizes she's losing her cool. Having Yunmiao in her home is testing her self-control. She looks at her with a hunger she usually hides at the casino. She thinks to herself that she's not the kind of person Yunmiao could ever love. Or is she? Her mind drifts back to how this all started. She remembers seeing Yunmiao's face in the early days. She wonders exactly when these feelings took root. Was it that time Yunmiao broke into her house to prove her loyalty? Back then, she just saw a determined girl eager to work. She remembers smiling as she watched her leave, feeling a strange warmth. She caught herself smiling way too much that day. Or maybe it was the time Yunmiao brought her ginger tea. The boss was having a rough day at work, stressed and on edge. She was dealing with terrible period cramps and just wanted to go home. But then Yunmiao appeared out of nowhere. She had prepared hot tea and a heating pot just for her. She had noticed the boss was pale and holding her stomach. The boss was stunned that someone actually cared enough to notice her pain. Yunmiao was so earnest, insisting she drink it before it got cold. That small gesture of kindness made the boss genuinely happy. She teased her for being a flatterer, but inside she was melting. Or maybe it was after that terrifying shootout. Amidst the smoke and chaos, the boss was frantically looking for her. Yunmiao came sprinting toward her, shouting for her boss. She acted like the whole thing was a piece of cake. The boss immediately checked her for injuries, her heart racing. Yunmiao was clearly flustered by the sudden attention. She even reached up to fix the boss's crooked hat. She laughed off the danger, showing her savage side. She looked at the boss with such genuine affection. When she called the boss cute, Our Lady's heart did a total backflip. They walked away together, the boss unable to hide her blush. Back in the present, the wine has finally done its job. The boss has drifted off into a deep sleep. Yunmiao gently lifts her up, carrying her bridal style. She's sound asleep, looking peaceful for once. Yunmiao gets a rare chance to look at her face from this close. Since she's out cold, our girl takes her time to admire every detail. She stares into those features, completely mesmerized. She almost doesn't want to let go. Finally, she tucks her into bed, her own heart pounding like a drum. Our girl watches over her sleeping beauty, the atmosphere so thick you could cut it with a knife. She can't help but admire those peaceful features while the world outside stays quiet. Blushing like a schoolgirl, she wonders if she can sneak a tiny touch without getting caught. Her hand trembles as she reaches out, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her fingers hover just inches away from that soft skin, tracing the air. She's practically vibrating with nerves caught between desire and fear. But at the last second, she pulls back, unable to cross that final line. This is getting way too chaotic for her poor heart to handle. Every little shadow of a touch makes her pulse race like a marathon runner. She stares with such intense longing it's actually painful to watch. She promises herself that one day, she'll finally find the courage to confess her true feelings. Meanwhile, over at Shaoying's place, things are getting significantly more heated. These two are locked in a savage embrace that's giving us all the feels. The tension is absolutely electric as they share a look that says everything words can't. Shaoying isn't planning on waiting for someday to get what she wants. She starts making her move, and let's just say the temperature in the room just spiked. Buttons are coming undone as our girl takes full charge of the situation. She's got that focused look in her eye that means business. If there's going to be compensation for her troubles, she's taking exactly what she desires. The chemistry here is pure fire, and we are totally here for it. Every touch is calculated to drive the other one absolutely crazy. We've never seen her this bold, and honestly, it's making us swoon. She pulls her closer, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. The robe falls away as the last bit of restraint completely vanishes. She's completely captivated by her, lost in the moment. It's a side of her reserved only for these private, intense encounters. The world outside doesn't exist anymore as the clothes hit the floor. They're lost in each other, and things are getting incredibly spicy. The air is filled with gasps and the weight of unspoken desires. They take a breath, but the fire between them is far from out. She leans in for more, clearly not ready for this night to ever end. It's a beautiful, floral-scented blur of pure passion. Their hands find each other in the dark, seeking a deeper connection. A moment of pure, unadulterated shock hits as the intensity reaches its peak. They are truly in their own world right now, far from the drama of the streets. It's a symphony of romance that's almost too much for us to handle. Every petal and every breath feels like a dream she never wants to wake from. They're finally where they belong, surrendered to the feeling. Wrapped in each other's arms, they let the rest of the world fade into nothingness. But the peace doesn't last long because we're dropping straight into a noisy, smoke-filled casino. Brother Tian is acting like he owns the place, even though he's clearly stepped into the wrong territory. He thinks he's a total savage, bragging about keeping tabs on all his enemies. But his buddy isn't buying his tough guy act for a single second. Our heroine is undercover as a waiter, trying her absolute best to blend into the woodwork. But Tian's eyes are sharper than they look, and he thinks his mind is playing tricks on him. He recognizes her from the docks and realizes he's just stumbled upon his target. Our girl is internally screaming, realizing her cover is about to be blown in the worst way. Suddenly, the real boss, Miss Xin, makes a grand entrance that silences the room. Her gaze is cold enough to freeze the entire building solid. She isn't playing around and immediately starts rounding up her men for a confrontation. The tension is thick enough to choke on as the power dynamic shifts. The gamblers are confused, but they know better than to move when she's angry. She calls out Tian by name and his smug face goes instantly pale. She looms over the table like a goddess of vengeance ready to strike. Brother Tian, she says, but the tone is anything but friendly. He tries to play it off with a fake smile, but he's sweating bullets under her gaze. Our heroine sees her chance to vanish into the crowd and tries to make a break for it. But Miss Xin isn't distracted. She's focused on the rat who dared enter her house. She's got receipts on every single penny he's stolen from her people. The two are locked in a deadly stare-down that could end in blood. Tian tries to argue his way out, but he's failing miserably against her logic. Miss Xin reminds him exactly whose territory he's standing in right now. She doesn't need a reason to throw trash like him out on the street. Her men surround him and the situation turns lethal in an instant. Tian is cornered, looking for any way to save his own pathetic skin. He tries to sell out our heroine, calling her a lousy woman in man's clothes. But Miss Xin isn't falling for his desperate, cowardly lies. She sees right through his attempt at a bargain and doesn't care what he has to say. She gives the order to tie him up and toss him out like the garbage he is. Tian loses his mind, screaming insults like a cornered, rabid animal. He's completely unhinged now, his pride wounded beyond repair. In a final, desperate move, he lunges forward with a hidden knife drawn. But our girl isn't about to let Miss Xin get hurt on her watch. She dives into the fray, putting her body right in the line of fire. Miss Xin screams out in horror as her secret protector goes down. Tian laughs like a maniac, thinking he's finally won the day. But he celebrated too early because a chair comes crashing down on his head with massive force. He's sent reeling as wood splinters everywhere in a chaotic mess. The blow is so savage it leaves him seeing stars and crashing to the floor. Xiao Ji is panicking about whether she actually landed a hit, but the guards have everything under control. Our hall master looks like she's had a long day dealing with these idiots, but the tension melts away the second she pulls our girl into a warm, protective hug. She promises that her arms are still plenty strong enough to keep her safe. It's a rare moment of peace before they have to deal with the trash tied up on the floor. The girls debate whether they should just toss this guy into the sea to feed the fish. Honestly, since the hall master sent them on this job, it's only fair she cleans up the mess. The prisoner starts making a muffled scene, probably realizing he's in deep trouble. He's absolutely fuming behind that gag, but nobody here is intimidated. He remembers the last time someone begged for mercy and it didn't end well. The hall master starts listing off all his recent failures, completely stripping away his dignity. The second the gag is out, he starts spitting insults and death threats like a total loser. Our savage queen doesn't blink, threatening to shove cow manure down his throat if he doesn't shut it. She casually mentions she's the one who cut down his predecessor, so he better start praying. With one swift move, he's sent crashing to the floor. Now he's looking at her with nothing but pure, unadulterated terror. Yanchu steps in with an icy gaze that could freeze the sun. She notes that they've clearly been way too nice to the Jinpeng family lately. The guy still thinks he's safe because she's just a woman, which is the fastest way to get yourself deleted. She gives him a brutal choice, his life or his boss's loyalty. Yanchu gets right in his face, looking like a total boss. She asks him point blank who he thinks the boss will choose when things get ugly. Her cold, calculating smile says everything he needs to know. You can practically see the moment his spirit breaks. He's sweating bullets now, realizing he's totally trapped. He finally cracks and asks what she wants. The price for his life is simple. He's going to be her personal rat and report every single move his boss makes. He tries to act tough and claim he'd never betray his uncle. Yanchu just smiles and pulls out a very sharp-looking pocket knife. She offers to let him go, but only after she gouges out one of his eyes as a loyalty tax. That's all it takes for him to start screaming that he'll tell her absolutely everything. Later, the girls decompress over tea, confident that the rat won't dare speak a word to his boss. Yanchu reaches out to comfort our poor heroine, sensing her lingering anxiety. She reassures her that as long as they are together, she has nothing to worry about. Feeling bold, Shaoying suggests that they should just move in together so they can look out for each other 24/7. The hallmaster is momentarily stunned by the sudden proposal. To celebrate their new arrangement, they head out for some late-night Zaya Longbao. But the night isn't over yet, as they plan a secret mission to sneak into the theater. They hop down into the darkness, moving like professional thieves. Yanchu catches her hand, leading her through the window of fairyland. The venue is hauntingly empty, a far cry from its usual bustling energy. Shaoying feels a wave of nostalgia and nerves as she walks through the deserted hall. She spots the old microphone standing lonely on the stage. Standing there in the spotlight, all the memories of her past life come rushing back. It's a beautiful, bittersweet moment of reflection. She imagines herself back in her prime, performing for the masses. Yanchu notices her getting overwhelmed and checks in on her. Shaoying admits that being back here feels like a lot to process. But Yanchu promises that no matter what, she will always be there to be her most loyal audience member. Touched by the support, Shaoying decides she wants to sing a special song. She dedicates the performance to the woman who was once her friend but is now her lover. She pours her heart out, thanking Yanchu for all her patience. As she begins to sing, it's like the whole room fills with starlight. Her voice carries the weight of her search for freedom and happiness. Yanchu watches her with eyes full of pure adoration. The song reaches a beautiful crescendo, symbolizing the arrival of spring after a long winter. She looks absolutely ethereal under the lights. The atmosphere is thick with romance as the final notes fade away. Yanchu can't help herself and rushes up to spin her around in a joyful hug. They share a tender look the world outside completely forgot. But wait, Yanchu has one more surprise, a special gift she's been hiding. It's a stunning, one-of-a-kind brooch she designed herself. She's actually nervous, worried her drawing skills weren't up to par. Shaoying silences her doubts with a passionate kiss. It's officially the best gift she's ever received. They share a sweet, lingering moment of pure bliss. With her heart finally at peace, Shaoying is officially ready to reclaim her throne on the stage. The scene at Fairyland Theater is buzzing as a magician takes the stage to get the crowd going with some mirror tricks. He pulls a colorful scarf out of thin air, but the audience isn't as impressed as he hoped. It's a bit basic for this high-class crowd, and everyone can see right through it. Our girl's boss isn't buying the act either, calling the trick total amateur hour savage. Xiao Ji smirks, claiming she could pull off something way more impressive than that. The boss gives her a long, searching look, clearly questioning our girl's sudden confidence. Xiao Ji looks surprisingly serious for once, her eyes full of a new kind of mischief. The boss just hums in amusement, her elegant features softening as she watches her favorite troublemaker. She pokes our girl, teasing her about where exactly she's been hiding these secret talents. She leans in dangerously close, asking if Xiao Ji has been keeping secrets from her boss this whole time. Our girl starts sweating bullets, insisting she'd never hide anything important from her lady. To prove her point, she offers to perform her very own magic trick right here and now. She stands up, telling the boss to wait while she gathers some necessary props. Tipping her hat with a wink, she promises she'll be right back with a show to remember. But as soon as she's outside, she facepalms, regretting her impulsive mouth and chaotic energy. Suddenly, a luxury car pulls up, catching her attention in the dimly lit street. The wheels screech to a halt right in front of the theater entrance. Seeing some very serious-looking men step out, our girl decides it's best to play ninja and keep her distance. She ducks into the shadows, but her ears perk up when she hears them mention Jizi Tower. She spots Uncle Peng and Boss Yang discussing some very shady business together. They're acting like total suck-ups, and our girl can tell they're up to absolutely no good. Boss Yang lets out a villainous laugh, celebrating how lively and chaotic the night is becoming. Our girl wastes no time and sprints back to the booth as fast as her legs can carry her. She slides back into her seat just in time, trying her best to catch her breath. She asks if the boss is ready for the real magic show to finally begin. Then, she tells the boss to feel her up to prove she isn't hiding any props under her clothes. The boss's brain completely short-circuits at the suggestive wording, and honestly, can you blame her? She tries to stay calm, but her face is turning a bright, lovely shade of red. Nervously, she reaches out, her hands trembling just a little bit. She starts checking our girl's clothes, trying to stay professional despite the heat. But the proximity is way too much, and both their hearts start doing Olympic-level gymnastics. The boss's hands slide over her waist, noting just how toned and slender our girl actually is. Finally, she finishes the inspection, and Xiao Ji gets ready for the big reveal. She tells the boss to watch closely and not even think about blinking. She covers her hand with a cloth, building the suspense to a breaking point. The boss watches with bated breath, completely captivated by the moment. With a flourish, she pulls out a beautiful red rose with a charm attached to it. The boss is absolutely stunned, her eyes widening at the unexpected and thoughtful gift. It's not just a flower, it has a special protective charm tied to the stem. The boss's heart skips a beat as she takes the rose into her hands. She looks at the charm, her eyes shimmering with a sudden wave of emotion. It's a symbol of safety and luck that carries a lot of weight. Xiao Ji admits she got it from a temple ages ago, but was too shy to find the right time to give it to her. She rubs the back of her neck, blushing as she says the opportunity finally felt perfect. The boss is speechless, clutching the charm like it's the most precious thing she owns. She squeezes it tight, feeling the deep warmth of the gesture. This specific charm is incredibly rare, usually only sought for someone you truly love. A person can only ask for it once in their entire life, making it a heavy commitment. We see a glimpse of the past where a woman asked for this very blessing at the temple. She was determined to get it, no matter how difficult the journey. She wanted her daughter to be protected every single day of her life. The legacy of the Yuan Temple charm is one of absolute and deep devotion. It represents a love that is meant to last an entire lifetime. The boss looks at our girl, wondering if she realizes exactly how much she means to her. She thanks Zio softly, promising to never let the charm leave her side. The atmosphere gets a little too heavy for our girl, so she cracks a joke to break the romantic tension. They settle back into their seats, the bond between them clearly stronger than ever. But the romance has to wait because our girl whispers the tea she overheard outside. The mention of GZ Tower sends a visible chill down the boss's spine. She realizes every second counts and they need to move fast before things escalate. Meanwhile, backstage, the tension is just as high as the show approaches. The hallmaster is stressing out over a meeting that went completely south. Someone is busy with their makeup, trying to ignore the drama swirling around them. Shaoying is determined to find out what the enemy is really after this time. She gets into a heated bickering match with her companion in the dressing room. Shaoying tells her to get lost so she can focus on her upcoming song. They share a brief supportive hug before the curtains finally go up. It's an emotional moment for the two of them as they prepare for the big comeback. But the touching scene is cut short when the door is slammed open by an intruder. Ji Yunmiao drops the bomb that Yang Ruiping is making suspicious moves outside Fairyland. Our girl immediately realizes that a man who doesn't care about money or women is definitely hunting for a high-ranking office. She decides they need to watch the performance while she thinks this through carefully. Backstage, the star of the show is perfecting her look, radiating pure confidence. She stands up with elegance, ready to face her destiny. Her gaze is sharp and determined as she prepares to step out. She knows exactly what's at stake, and as her name is called, she prepares to show everyone who really owns the stage. She isn't just a singer, she's a woman on a mission to reclaim her life. She knows she doesn't just belong to the spotlight. The entire stage belongs to her. She swears to take back everything that was rightfully hers. As the curtains part, the crowd's anticipation is at a breaking point. Yanchu remembers when they were just huddled together, working on these new lyrics. Shaoying had been so excited for her comeback. Our girl had even cooked up a feast in her cute apron to celebrate. They spent hours side by side, pouring their hearts into the music. Shaoying had looked at her with so much warmth, grateful for the help. Yanchu couldn't help but feel the weight of their bond. She took Shaoying's face in her hands, promising that they would be a team from now on. She wanted her to know she wasn't alone in this fight. It was a moment of pure chaotic cuteness that left Shaoying blushing and starry-eyed. They played around like children, finally finding a moment of peace. Every word written in that book was a step toward freedom. After a quick meal, it was time to get to work. Back in the present, Yanchu watches from the wings as the song begins. Shaoying's voice fills the hall, haunting and beautiful. The lyrics hit home and the audience is absolutely mesmerized, some even moved to tears. The applause is thunderous as the final note fades. Yanchu has a tear in her eye, bursting with pride for her friend's triumph. It's a literal shower of flowers as Shaoying stands tall in the spotlight. Our girl decides to stay in the background to avoid any messy rumors, sending her congratulations through a messenger instead. Shaoying gathers her flowers, looking every bit like the queen she was meant to be. The song continues to echo through the theater, reaching every corner. In the VIP section, a man named Tan is completely devastated by the melody. It triggers a flashback to his childhood love and the promises of marriage he once made. He's crushed by the realization that he couldn't fulfill a single one of those promises. He weeps silently, blaming himself for the misery she had to endure. He looks at Shaoying and sees the daughter he failed, hoping she finds the happiness he lost. He sits in the shadows, lost in his own regret. Suddenly, the villainous Yang Ruiping creeps up behind him. He's been watching Tan's reaction and knows exactly which buttons to press. Yang Ruiping greets him with a smug grin, acting like they're old pals. Tan tries to play it cool, praising the enchanting performance. But Yang Ruiping is already plotting his next move with a cigar in hand. He slides a photo across the table, revealing a new singer he's found. He's bitter that Shaoying isn't under his thumb anymore and wants a replacement. He claims he's been searching for someone who can actually rival her. Tan listens, his eyes narrowing as he realizes the snake is up to no good. Yang Ruiping reminds him that no matter what, he's still Shaoying's father. He claims he wants to give her a reality check because the world doesn't revolve around her. Then he drops a chilling hint. He knows a secret that Shaoying would never want anyone to find out. He keeps the details to himself, enjoying the power he holds. Tan is left wondering what kind of leverage this man has against his daughter. Yang Ruiping suggests Tan use this new woman to impress Shaoying and get back in her good graces. He tells him to trust the process, even though it feels like a trap. Later, as the car pulls away, the girls finally have a moment to breathe. Shaoying is haunted by memories of her father's toxic lessons about political circles. She remembers the day she finally packed her bags and told him to go his own way. He had tried to manipulate her, claiming the road alone was dangerous. He wanted her to follow him into a life of privilege, but she knew the truth. She was nothing more than a tool for his ambition. Yanchu sees the pain in her eyes and takes her hands, offering a brilliant, savage alternative. She reveals that her own father has massive connections in the government, and she's ready to use them to protect her friend.